Let's see. All right, cool. Looks like we're on live. All right. Looks like we're good here. Is a 15-second delay too, Craig. Just FYI. All right, my friends. So appreciate you all being here this evening. Again, as always, if you have questions, put them in all caps if you would, and we'll get some questions. Hey, George, we'll get to questions later on. I don't want to take questions. Maybe you do, Craig. I kind of don't like taking questions in a room. I kind of like waiting till the end. What do you think about that? Is that more preferable?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right, good. So we got some people here in the house so far. So again, what we want to talk about tonight is we're having trouble streaming to a destination. Oh yeah, Rumble. Yeah. All right, hold on just a second. Blink. All right. So it looks like the video is loud and clear. All right, we're gonna click on that right there. All right, good. It sounds like the volume sounds good. All right, so just again, Craig Israelsen has been in investments, looking at investments, teaching investments for many, many years. He's developed some serious chops when it comes to this stuff, and we thought it'd be a lot of fun to present this to people in terms of like some of his research. We're thinking about actually doing kind of like almost like a class essentially for people to pay. It won't be much, but usually when there's skin in the game, in fact, weird, there's a book from Nassim Nicholas Taleb called Skin in the Game. When you have skin in the game, you're more committed and thus you get more out of it. Shocking that. And so what we're thinking about doing is offering. Okay. No, we're not doing it. Hold on a second. No, no, we're not doing that. My wife, Craig, is in Australia with my two daughters. So it's just me and the boys and two dogs here. And one dog is, there's no one to take care of him except for me. So we might have some interruptions. You have dogs by chance? I can't remember if I asked
that. No dogs.
Yeah. So, hey. No. And I love the dogs, but they're loud. I might have to put them in the crate. So anyway, so what we're thinking is later on, and so is to doing like a paid thing where it's, it's a nominal fee, $25 or something like that, per session, where you actually have a chance to ask Craig and me, if you want, his thoughts. And he's got a whole bunch of information that he can share with you that it's time consuming, man, to put this stuff together. And as such, it's worthwhile, in my opinion, to charge a nominal fee to get people who are into this, who have questions and thoughts and discussion topics, as opposed to just some random troll on YouTube. So that's kind of the thought process there. And if you guys are interested, just let me know, put in the comments later on, and I'll probably do a poll or something like that and see what people have to say. Cause it'd be a good session, man. Even if it's only 10 people, that's 10 people are interested in this, and they can, talk to Craig and his, Craig, you've been around for a couple of years. So what, you just turned 21 the other day or something like that? Is that right?
23.
That's right. All right. So let's get started, man. So Craig, take it away. You want to bring up your spreadsheet and we'll just go your thing and go from there. Tell me when you got it up. There we go. All right. You ready for me to add to it?
Yeah. You can see that okay?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And again, guys, if you have questions, try to maybe hang tight for a second, maybe write them down in your own notes, and then later on we'll take some time for Q&A and just put them in all caps. Yeah, fine. Go ahead, Craig. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us. My target tonight is to be done here in about 25 minutes.
Perfect.
So people can get on to their next adventure. So I just want to introduce a spreadsheet that I've been working on for probably over 10 years. And I've got a few PowerPoint slides to give you an overview. And then I want to go to the actual spreadsheet, demonstrate a couple of scenarios, and then we'll just call it a night. So, yeah, I call this the Retirement Portfolio Analyzer, or RPA. And we begin with a tab in the spreadsheet. So this looks like a spreadsheet, but this is a screenshot of a spreadsheet. So we begin with the One Graph tab, and everything in yellow is where you enter your information, your starting balance or your current balance of your retirement portfolio, your allocation across large stock, small stock, bonds, and cash, right in here. If you want to make any historical adjustments to historical data, And when I say historical, I mean back to 1926. So this particular analysis you're looking at is almost 100 years of data.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want to, for example, with bonds, the historical return, let me get rid of those lines, is about 5.23%. If you think starting right now, going forward, bonds won't do that well, you could superimpose that pessimism with regard to fixed income and impose it on the last nearly 100 years.
Ah, that's
So what we're doing here is we're analyzing historical data to give us a sense of what the future might hold, because the past does indeed cast a shadow into the future. It's not predictive, but it's instructive, and predictive in terms of absolute prediction. So that's what that historical adjuster is about. The portfolio cost, so that would be the cost of the mutual funds or the ETFs that you're using, plus if you're paying an advisor, that cost as well. And then how the money is coming out. Is it coming out based on the RMD? Do you want to enter a percentage like 4% or 5%? Do you want to enter a fixed dollar amount? All of those are variables that you would control in the spreadsheet. The Based on what was entered, we have then a variety, just a very quick look at just a couple of analytics. The first is the graph. So if we look back at the allocations, you've got 25% in large stock, 25 in small, 25 bonds, 25 cash. So it's a 50-50 portfolio between equities and fixed income. That portfolio over the last 97 now, with 2022 being added, that portfolio averaged about 7.5% return per year, with the standard deviation of about 12%. So visually, that's what that graph is showing.
That's fantastic.
That graph is showing the return each and every year for that 50-50 portfolio. I would say it's a pretty encouraging picture.
Craig, is this automatically rebalanced, or how is that?
Yep,
Okay.
automatically rebalanced. So you go back to 25% in each asset class at the start of every year.
Okay. Gotcha.
So the blue lines are the positive returns, the red lines are obviously negative returns, but you had positive returns 77% of the time.
Yeah.
There's no baseball player that hits 770. There's no NBA player that shoots 77%. We really have to remember that the propensity for a portfolio, a well-diversified portfolio, the propensity to produce positive returns is really impressively high. And we've got to stop focusing on the thorns, those years when there's a negative return, and just simply realize negatives do happen, but they happen a minority percent of the time. So assuming, let's go back so we had $750,000 as our portfolio balance. And with that starting point, the average monthly withdrawal was about $6,600. Okay. I mean, take a minute to process that. The average monthly withdrawal was $6,600. That is an average of a very large number of computations, because bear in mind, you've got 72 25-year periods. So what we're really analyzing is 72 different retirees. Each retiree has a 25-year retirement window. Think of it from age 70 to age 95. Okay, that's a 25-year window. We're analyzing 72 rolling 25-year periods over this 96-year period. So that average of 6629 per month is the average of a lot of numbers. Success rate. How often did the portfolio survive at least 25 years? 100% of the time. This is money being pulled out by the schedule of the RMD, the required minimum distribution. And
yeah, Craig. So this is based on RMD. So starting like 3.6%, 3.8. Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
But you can change that to whatever you want to do.
Yes,
Gotcha.
yes, you can. But what's really important is that when you look at the success rate of 100%, what that's telling us is that when you pull money out based on a percentage, whether it's the RMD, whether it's a percentage you determine, if you have money in accounts that are not governed by RMD,
yeah,
you just don't kill a portfolio. The percentage-based withdrawal method has compassion because after a year like 2008, your percentage-based withdrawal, the amount of money withdrawn will be smaller than you withdrew at the end of 2007 because the portfolio likely took a hit. And that's what keeps the portfolio alive when the amount of withdrawal can be sensitive to what happened to the portfolio the prior year. The average ending balance was just over $1 million. Remember that this is based on a starting balance of 750,000. The reality is that a well-designed portfolio that is sustaining modest withdrawals, if a retiree will stay with it and not get scared and bail out, in all likelihood, the portfolio is going to grow over time, not decay, but actually grow. And I know that's kind of hard. It feels like we're being super optimistic, and that's why I want to show you this, because we're looking at every 25-year period that we can, meaning I can't go back further than 1926. I don't have the performance data, but I can go back to 1926 and look at every rolling 25-year period since 1926, and I can't find a 25-year period where if you're pulling out the RMD and you have a well-diversified portfolio, I can't find a window of time where the portfolio died.
And that includes, Craig, from 1929, 20. So those red things in there at the beginning, that's 1929 to 1954. That's a 25-year period, and that you didn't even run out of money. You know what I'm saying? Even including 1937, that's the next big drop right there. So 1929 to 1937, your goose is cooked. And yet, even with the RMD method, and you can change it as you so see, you still had money when you died. That's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive.
It is impressive. Let me jump to the spreadsheet at this point and show you this live, because
this
is a lot more fun. So we're going to go to this. So now I'm in the spreadsheet. This is a live spreadsheet now. I'm going to make a little bit more space here. Let's put $1 million as the starting balance. Let's say it's now 73, because that's the new starting point for people going forward. Let's have a 60-40 portfolio, 40% large stock, 20% small stock, 30% bonds, 10% cash, kind of a classic 60-40. Let's put 100 basis points as the cost. I think if you're building this portfolio on your own, there's no reason it needs to be, well, let's put minus 50 basis points. You can easily build a portfolio for 50 basis points.
Yep.
So let's start with the 4% rule. Okay, so we're pulling money out, 4% of the portfolio every year.
Now, is this adjusted for inflation or just basing a 4% straight up of the portfolio?
Just 4% straight up. Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. And I'll show you some slides that account for inflation in just a second. So here's this familiar screen that you saw in the PowerPoint slides. You scroll down, you have all of the annual returns.
Oh yeah, sweet.
Each asset class plus inflation. Your portfolio returns are right here, highlighted in kind of that yellowish. All the way down, there's all the raw data. There's no smoke and mirrors. You're looking at everything that the spreadsheet is chewing on. You got your geometric means, your standard deviation for all of the individual asset classes. And then you come up here, and here's the RMD. So here's the RMD annual withdrawals, and it's based on your age. So if you were to come up here and say, well, I'm 80 years old, right, well, then enter 80. Your RMDs change right down here.
That's cool, man.
But your average RMD, even if you're 80, is 10%.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a pretty high withdrawal rate, but did it kill it?
Nope.
No, let's go back to RMD. Success rate, 100%, right there. Okay, a 4% withdrawal rate, 100% success rate. Now you're still looking at the annual returns in this graph of this 60/40 portfolio. If I pop over here,
Okay, all right. I'm gonna put. Oh, let's keep going, Craig. We're going to Craig.
Yep, will do.
Let's go. Nope, let's go.
Okay, let's go to full analysis. Okay, so here's the $1 million starting balance. Let's go back to let's not start at age 80. Let's start at 73. Go back to full analysis. Okay, now you're looking at a different graph. So here's the $1 million start, age 73. Here's your 60/40 portfolio allocations, 50 basis points of cost, and a 4% withdrawal rate. Okay, so if you want, we can go back to RMD. Let's do that. We have to go back to the one graph to make changes to the variables. Come back to full analysis. Now we're to RMD. All right, now the blue bars that you're looking at, these blue bars, there's 73 of them, because now I've added 2022 to the database. The slide deck was based on last year, and I've added one more year, 2022. So now we have 73 retirement periods of 25 years. Here's the first one. That's 1926 to 1950. That retiree started with $1 million. They all start with $1 million. That's what those purple dots, maroon dots represent. That's the starting balance for all 73 retirees. That retiree who started in 1926 and took out the RMD for 25 years up through 1950, they finished with a balance of $872,000. This retiree, which started their first withdrawal in 1929, and then their 25th withdrawal was 1953, they had an ending balance of $644,000. But I think we would admit that that was a pretty rough 25 years.
Yeah, it was a
You
rough.
can go to this one right here. That's the sweet spot. That's 1975 to 1999. So that particular 25-year period is sandwiched in between market crashes. So the 73-74, that was a really rough 2 years for equities. Well, but this retiree they made their first withdrawal in 75. So they missed that.
Yeah.
And then the 25th was in 1999, so they didn't get touched by the 2001-02 episode. So what you see with these blue bars is it's the ending balance after 25 years of withdrawals. You'll notice that every retiree finished in the blue/black. Okay, they had money left over after 25 years of withdrawal. So come down here below the graph, and here's some of the key metrics. First metric, what was the average withdrawal for that person each year? It was 126,000. Okay, well, that's the average over all 73 retirees. The highest average was in this highest blue bar. Even though that's the ending balance, that's also associated with the highest end of year, the 25-year withdrawal. So on average, that individual withdrew $252,000. That's just astonishing. The average portfolio balance, let's jump over here, at age 98, meaning 25 years later, was 1.59 million. So the starting was 1 million. The average ending balance was 1.59. The highest ending balance was 4.24 million right here in that 1975 to 1999 window. The smallest ending balance was that 644. That was back in the 1929 to 1953. Yeah. The average inflation adjusted ending balance was 645,000.
If you click on the smallest, does it actually point to 1929? Like if you click on the smallest Like, does it tell you exactly what year that was? I mean, without
Yeah, the little pop-up. Do you see the little pop-up
Okay,
window?
yeah, right on. Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
yep, there it is. Right on. Perfect.
And so in my estimation, what this spreadsheet tool is really doing is it's allowing us to believe that it's possible to go 25 years and not kill a portfolio. Let me demonstrate that. Let me show you really quickly how to kill a portfolio.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. How do we kill it so we can do that? Exactly.
Well, what you do is you enter 0 in this cell, okay, where RMD was.
Yeah.
So if RMD, then a bunch of stuff goes away. But if
Yeah.
I enter a 0, that gives me other options.
Ah,
Let's
sweet.
say that I specify I want $75,000 a year,
Yeah.
and I want a COLA of 3%,
Can
and I
you do
want
a
a
negative
COLA.
cola in there, Craig?
What's that?
Can you do a negative cola?
Oh yeah, -3. Yep. I'd never
That's,
thought of doing a negative, but yeah, you could. That could be for the, you're withdrawing more early on
I'm
and less
working on
later
a
on.
Craig. I'm
Yeah.
working on a new book called "The Reverse RMD Retirement Plan." Reverse
Oh yeah,
RMD.
that's
That's
a good idea.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, keep going. Keep going. I'm interrupting you.
And then if you want, let's go back to
Yeah.
a positive COLA, just traditionally.
Right.
You can specify down here, it says, listen, if the annual portfolio return is blank or lower, then what's the COLA? Well, if it's 0, right here,
Man, Craig, this
or
dude.
lower, we're not going to do a COLA. But if it's 10% or higher, we'll do a 5% COLA.
Man, you did all this in Excel spreadsheets,
Yeah.
and you did it.
Yeah, I've been working on this for a number of years.
This is freaking fantastic.
So now look what we've done to the portfolio. That's how you kill a portfolio. You tell it, I've got to have 75. You have $1 million start.
Yeah.
You're taking out 75,000 no matter what,
Yeah.
and you're adjusting that to where, in this graph down here, this is showing the annual withdrawals by year, and the um, blue diamond is the largest. The green dots are the average. But what happens is that you killed the portfolio. Um, it died almost half the time. It didn't last. It only lasted 25 years, 53% of the time, right here. So that's how you kill a portfolio: is you assign a heavy withdrawal rate that's not sympathetic. In other words, it's a fixed dollar amount. Even if you take the COLAs away,
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
you still are going to kill it 8% of the time. And that was back in the Depression. And actually, most recently, the most recent 25-year period, 1998 to 2022, you almost killed it. That's rough.
That's not bad though, man. I mean, you only killed it 8% of the time. That's
True. And that's a
yeah,
$75,000
exactly.
fixed every year withdrawal. So I think as people start to use this um, tool, they will be drawn to a percentage-based withdrawal system. There's the classic 4%. Well, let's go 6%. A 6%
Yeah,
withdrawal rate.
exactly. Yep, right. I'm saying.
Let's go to full analysis. Okay, how often did the portfolio survive all 25 years? 100% of the time. What was the average ending balance after 25 years of withdrawals? 2 million.
That's fantastic.
What was the average amount withdrawn in total over each 25-year period? 2.4 million. So this is, I understand if this is hard to believe, but I've shown you the raw data. It's right here. Those are all the returns that we're using to calculate everything. Large stock, small stock, bonds, and cash. Okay, there they are. If the key is that you got to hang in there. In other words, because we know that a portfolio will generate positive returns roughly 75, 76, 77% of the time, that's really what drives success. Is if we give the portfolio a chance to do what it will do. But, you know, a 3-year commitment to a portfolio is not enough.
Yeah.
A 5-year is not enough. We're talking about rolling 25-year periods, and that is one of the key takeaways. And it's taken me a while to see the obvious because we do all this analysis and it's really encouraging. 100% success rate. You start with $1 million, you take out on average 2.4 million, and you have 25 years later an average of about just under 2.1 million. I mean, this is the stuff legends are made of. Well, what is legendary is that we're looking at results of 73 retirees who stayed in the wagon, who stayed with the portfolio. Now, one more
And
thing.
they rebalanced too, though. That's another thing, Craig.
Rebalanced. That's right. Let's look at a very conservative portfolio, a 50-50
There you go.
bonds, cash.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the annual returns. All right. That's just the year-to-year returns. That's not the ending balance of the portfolio. Positive returns 93% of the time. You say, whoa, that's encouraging. Well, yeah, but look how often, remember that the maroon dots are the starting balance for each of the 73 different people. The blue bar is the ending balance after 25 years. Look how often, even though the portfolio survived 100% of the time, only 30% of the time was it larger than the starting balance.
Yeah.
So 70% of the time you were, quote, underwater after 25 years, but you're still alive. You still have money in the portfolio.
Yeah.
Let's go back to what we were looking at, 40, 20, 30, 10, a classic 60-40. You see what happens. You're 97% of the time you grew the nest egg. You grew the portfolio. That 3% of the time that you didn't, that was 1929 to 1953, that 25-year window, and the most recent 25-year window, 1998 to 2022. The vast majority, 97% of the time, your portfolio was larger than what it was 25 years before. So
that's with a 5%.
That's with a 6% withdrawal rate.
See, I mean,
that's a 6% withdrawal rate.
Yeah.
And the classic sort of industry wisdom based on Bill Bengen's research from the 1970s is, it's a 4% withdrawal rate. Well, if you go to 4, now you have obviously 100% success. You grew the nest egg 100% of the time. And what's fascinating is one little stat that I haven't mentioned yet. Let's look at this take 5. And let me kind of blow it up a little bit. Take 5, the percentage of time that the ending balance after 5 years was higher than the starting balance. So think about that. A person starts into retirement, and 5 years later, they're now, in this case, 78 years old. They started at age 73. I think we have to be honest with ourselves. Nobody's going to either build or have built for them a retirement portfolio and then never look at it for 25 years. They're going to look at it. So let's say they look at it after 5 years. Well, in this scenario of this asset allocation, 86% of the time, the ending balance after 5 years, or sort of the balance after 5 years, is higher than the starting balance. That's noted by these yellow dots. That's the balance after 5 years. So the maroon dots are the starting balance. The yellow dots are the balance after 5 years of withdrawals. The blue bar is the balance after 25 years of withdrawals. What is the obvious thing you think that I want you to notice? That the balance after 25 years is higher than the balance after 5 years in every case. Now, the other side of this is that 14% of the time, the inverse of 86, 14% of the time, and that's these yellow dots below the maroon line, 14% of the time, your balance after 5 years of withdrawals was below what you started with. That's probably a scenario that's going to cause a little bit of concern to the retiree. So let's look at the next statistic. The percentage of time, it's called hang in there. The percentage of time that the ending balance after 25 years was higher than the balance after 5 years. In other words, you're taking a reading after 5 years. You're a little bit scared. What happens if you hang in there? Well, 100% of the time, your balance after 25 years was higher than your balance after 5 years of withdrawals. I hope that's not confusing, but what I'm trying to do with those measurements is try to inject some sort of emotional reality that people will be checking their portfolio along the way. And the key is to not forecast doom simply because your portfolio after 5 years is a little bit below or a fair amount below what you started with. If you'll, quote, hang in there, in all likelihood, at least historically, with this portfolio, with a 4% withdrawal rate, with a 50 basis point expense ratio, you were rewarded for being patient and having endurance. Okay, well, we've hit 6:31, and I want to honor what I said. So that's just a quick intro to the spreadsheet. There's a number of other spreadsheets elements to this that I can show you. That's just two of the tabs. There's a bunch more to show you, but we can do that next time.
So, Craig, this spreadsheet is available for people to buy out, to lease, or something like that from you. Is that right?
Yeah. This spreadsheet is available, and I think what we talked about, Josh. Normally, I sell it for $200, and a lot of the people that buy it are actually financial advisors, because a lot of my clients are financial planners. But there's some individual investors that purchase it. Yeah. So I think the idea was we're going to, through the podcast here, offer it for half, so $100. And then I update it each year. I make changes and adjustments during each calendar year. And then in January of each year, I update it with the new year's data.
Yeah.
And so I update it for sure every January. But actually, just historically speaking, I'm making adjustments to it quite often. And so people that buy it, in that year that they buy it, they get all the upgrades that as I tinker with it, I just automatically send those out. So then in January, if a person wants to buy it with the new, so in January of 2024,
right,
then the spreadsheet will be from 1926 through 2023. It'll have one additional year of data.
We're approaching 100 years. Yeah, right on. And if they buy it from you once, they don't have to buy it every year, right? It's not a subscription, or is it?
Yeah. So each January, a person who buys it now,
yeah,
then the renewal price is half of their original price. So if they're buying it for $100 now, the renewal price would be $50. If other people not through this podcast,
right,
they're buying it for $200, their renewal price would be $100.
Okay, no, right on. But still, it's a discount if you buy it to get renewal every year. So if a guy is, and you don't have to renew it. I mean, someone says, I'm getting ready to retire, I want to buy Craig's spreadsheet, for $200, and I just want to run it for 1 year. Run it for 1 year, man. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, there's enough data in this current release. If I were buying this, I would buy it probably every third or fourth year.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily buy it every year, because one more year of data is not really going to change the realities that we're seeing here. Five more years of data, yeah, I probably want to see, so maybe I'd buy it every fifth year.
Unless, Craig, you're a spreadsheet junkie. A lot of my clients are engineers. You know what I'm saying? they love. I mean, literally, it's a dopamine kick to run spreadsheets and stuff, and just what if, and for $100, that's, I mean, man, you could buy a 6-pack of Guinness for $100 now. So for $100 for Craig's spreadsheet on a basis.
Well, anyway, if people are interested, they can just email me right there.
I'll put that in the show notes too, by the way. I'll put all that. Craig, Jill's got a question. Is there a way to take taxes into, I don't know how you would though, but is there a way to take taxes into consideration? Can you test more than 25 years?
No, good questions. You can't do more than 25 years. I had to make some hard decisions about, because what we're really doing here is we're studying the sequence of returns, the variability introduced by sequence of returns. And that's what all these different heights of the blue bar are really manifesting, is the sequence of returns issue. But as far as cash flow, because taxes is kind of a cash flow question, this tab that I haven't shown you is the cash flow tab. Here's where you enter Social Security.
Oh,
estimated.
Whoa!
Your estimated Social Security, your spouse's estimated Social Security, the starting year of your spouse, whether it's, because sometimes you're not the same age, your estimated Social Security COLA. So then you've got your Social Security, your spouse's, the monthly portfolio withdrawal, which is being drawn from this information here. Okay, so the cash flow tab is grabbing a bunch of results. So it's your Social Security, your spouse's Social Security, the portfolio withdrawal based upon your inputs, gives you a total monthly income right here.
Right.
Okay, taxes then, each person would have to then say, okay, what's my tax rate? They would have to do then a little bit of spreadsheet work on their own and if they're in a state that doesn't have state income tax. So I haven't tackled that yet, because that just gets pretty gnarly when you start dealing with all the permutations of tax. Doesn't mean I won't introduce it in later versions, but you do have a way of looking at total monthly income and then discounting that very succinctly. Just let's say you want to reduce that by 80%. Okay, then just reduce those by 80%. That's your tax hit, and then that's a pretty easy computation on one's own.
You can put just an effective tax rate of 15% in there or something like that. Just reduce it by that, whatever you think your effective tax rate will be or something like that.
Yeah, and that's not hard to do. I will probably do that actually. It'd be a very simple. It's not going to deal with all the complexities. It's just going to be a very simple way of reducing that total monthly income by an amount a percentage that the user would enter. And that's a good suggestion.
Craig, if you were to get in the gnarliness of computing provisional income, Social Security tax, I wouldn't do any of that. I mean, the software that you have developed here is a standalone on itself, and you don't want to have to deal with the different tax codes and states and all that. It's not worth it. I'd say, look, tell the client, the end user, what is you think your effective tax rate is, and put a block in there they can enter. And if they want to change it around,
exactly. Yep. That's a good idea.
And this is Marie says, spreadsheet. What software does my computer need? Is this like a cloud-based software program, or do you have to download?
No, this is Excel. So this is just normal Excel. So if you have Excel for Windows or Excel for the Mac, it's just an Excel spreadsheet.
So they're not using it via the cloud. They're actually downloaded to their own.
Yes. Yeah. When people buy it from me, I email the actual spreadsheet to you.
Gotcha. Right on. Yep. Right on. All right. Good. Who will take over updating the spreadsheet data if you get sick? Says David W.
I try not to get sick.
Yes. Craig is a hiker, David, and he lives in Utah, so he's getting all that vitamin D from the beautiful, beautiful sun. So, let's see. Can you start this at an earlier age?
Yeah, you can. And really, the only reason that the age matters, let's go to the one graph, is if you're using RMD.
Yes.
Okay. Because RMD feeds on age.
Yeah.
If you just wanted to put 65 and a 4% withdrawal, no problem.
Yeah. Right, sweet.
Okay, all because it doesn't really, the spreadsheet doesn't care how old you are in the 25-year
Right.
windows. It just looks at 25-year windows. And so in this case, starting at balance at age 65, so it knew that I changed that. Then you have the balance at age 70, that's the yellow. Then you have the balance at age 90. So it's just looking at 25-year windows, and it doesn't care what your age is unless you're imposing the RMD. So if I enter the RMD right here, it's going to, that pink pop up right here,
Yeah.
it's not going to like that because you got to be at least 72. And what's cool about this is that a person, you don't stay the same age. And so you run through this analysis when you're 72, and then 8 years later, when you're 80, you enter 80.
Yeah.
You have a new balance. Maybe by 80, it's 1.5 million, and you just do another set of analysis. As you know, and it's a dynamic program that's kind of working with you as you age.
And just go back to the 30-year thing too, Jill. So remember, you can kind of devise. You say, look, after 25 years, I started in 1929. My portfolio is worth $800,000. You only got 5 years left. You're pretty good gauge that you're going to be okay, if that makes sense. I don't think the 30 years necessary just because you're like, if I can last 25, and the vast majority of time I'm ahead of the game where I started with, pretty good chance I'll last the next 5 years, even if I go into a 2001 and 2, because I'm so far ahead of the game as it is. That in of itself, I don't think a 30-year thing is all that necessary. But I get it. We're trying to plan for 25 years. Makes sense to me. 30 years, you can just add a couple extra years by saying, hey, all right, so I know when it was just for simplicity. I started in $1 million in 1929. After 25 years, it's down to 630. Now I take that 630. I start with my 630 in 1929.
Right.
How much will it last another 5 years? You can kind of mess around with that. And Jill, I know Jill knows her way around spreadsheets. She can figure that out easily for sure. You can do whatever starting balance you want, Stephen. So remember, it's not the dollar balance it doesn't matter what the dollar amount is. It matters the percentages. I get this a lot, actually. It doesn't matter if it's $10 million, $1 million, or $100,000 or $10. It doesn't matter. It's always the percentages. So the dollar amount, you can do whatever you want. If you want to make yourself say, I got $100,000, I just want to see if that will last, at 5% a year. That's the exact same thing as $1 million at 5% a year. So that don't get too caught up in the dollar amount. You can do whatever you want in that
regard. Yeah, that's exactly right. Let me just show you one more thing, because people are really, the questions are wonderful. If you want to do custom annual withdrawals, just enter the word custom, scroll down, and enter your custom. And so Josh was referring just a minute ago to a negative COLA, which basically is that in the early years of retirement, people may have a higher withdrawal rate because they have better health. And so over time, they just don't need as much money. And so what I've done is simulate that. 6% was the annual withdrawal the first 5 years, and then 5% the next 4, a 4% withdrawal rate the next 4, and then 3 on out.
Man, that's fantastic.
And that now is live. So those custom percentages are now informing. See how the graph just changed?
Yeah.
That's informing every tab you look at. And I didn't go through some of these, and we can, at a later time. Cash flow form.
That is great.
Quite a bit of flexibility, even though it's in the structure of a spreadsheet. I've tried to think through the typical kind of questions or scenarios that people would like to analyze.
Well, I also like how you can change your expected rates of return in there too, Craig. That's
right. So, okay. So let's go back to a 4% withdrawal rate or RMD. We've done a lot of RMD. Let's keep it on RMD. Let's say that we want to be pessimistic about the last 97 years. Let's take 200 basis. Whoops, not 2,000. 200 basis points off large stock return, 300 basis points off small stock, 200 basis points off bonds, and 100 basis points off cash. You can see what it did to the returns here historically. Did that kill our portfolio? Nope. Nope. 100% success rate. Only 40% of the time were we above water after 25 years. So it did have an impact. But we just introduced an alternate reality
Exactly.
historically. We reduced returns in a material way, and the
100%.
portfolio still hung together under RMD assumptions.
I just can't stress how important that is because, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of using historical rates of return for projections because who knows, you know what I'm saying? And so, being cautiously pessimistic, I like to say, look, bonds are against 3.5, well, 6.5% rate for stocks. Let's just use that and if we can make that work and still be sitting, pretty doggone close to where we started from, even if a little bit under, who cares? After 25 years, you're 89 years old. Who cares? It's like, how can people not see that there's, even in a cautiously pessimistic model, you can retire without running out of money? It's,
Yeah, this building this spreadsheet, and I use it for a lot of the articles I write for different magazines. Using the spreadsheet has had a powerful impact on me and my optimism that I don't have to anguish
yes.
over the natural volatility that occurs when you're investing.
Yeah.
If you have a positive standard deviation, that means you have volatility.
Yeah.
And volatility is natural. That means you're investing in stuff. But the reality is 25 years is a long enough period for a portfolio to have some rough years and then to have some really wonderful years. And even even with these big discounts, these big historical adjustments, this portfolio had positive annual returns almost 70% of the time. So I've already said it. I'm going to say it again. The key is not really anything in yellow. Even that's where you enter information. The key is each individual's persistence. They stay with it. That is, and that's patience is the most powerful asset class in your portfolio.
Oh man, what a great quote, Greg. Patience is the most powerful asset class. That's a great quote, man. 100%. Dave Ramsey talks about it, and I have my issues with Dave, but he talks about it a lot. Like, it's not, what do you say? It's not how much you're putting into your 401k. It's just that you do it because, obviously we get the compounding, but, after a certain amount of time, the amount your money you're putting in is small relative to the growth from having stayed the course for so many years. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Couple other questions here. What's your preferred payment method, Craig?
Well, I mean, for a lot of us, if you have a 401k, a 403b, we're gonna have a certain percent of
Well,
our.
I think he means, how do you want to get paid? Like a personal check or a PayPal or something like that?
Oh. Yeah. So if you want to just email me, then I can send a PayPal invoice, or you can Venmo me, and I can send you my Venmo, or you can mail a check. Whatever you'd like to do is fine. We'll just work that out through emails.
Just email Craig. And again, I'll put all the stuff in the show notes. Can you enter a pension or annuity as another form of income on top of the Social Security that you have in there?
That is a great question. That is a great question. That's doable. I mean, I just have to go into this cash flow page, enter another column.
You might even just say, Craig, other income. You know what I'm saying? It could be, part-time income, pension, annuity, anything. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. See, that's an example. These webinars, these podcasts, that's an example of how, I should have thought of that. Okay, but I didn't. And so I'll make that adjustment, and everybody benefits who's already bought it this year, the spreadsheet this year, because I sent out the update. Because that's not a hard adjustment, and it allows for, other is the way to do it, because then it's whatever
What I'm saying.
annuity or rental or income or whatever.
And I think the tax stuff is too. I want to elaborate on that. The tax stuff is very personal. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't. Frankly, my suggestion to you, I wouldn't mess with that. But the other just have another call for other income.
Yeah,
My
right.
my audience is actually pretty smart. I tell you, I got a lot of engineers, a lot of software people, a lot of pharmacists for some reason, and just a lot of smart cookies here. And it's actually pretty interesting. It's fun. I don't have the biggest audience. I don't have the most views, but it's a good dialogue I have with people who are very well adept at thinking on their feet when it comes to stuff, and they don't fall for the clickbait crap of, oh, we're all running out of money, we're all going to die. It's a great audience, man. And I could not.
Well, I can tell by the questions. I can tell by
100%.
the questions. Yeah.
All right. You can buy. Okay, so someone said about. Is there a? Hold on a second. We talked about pensions. Or we already talked about that. You can make. Okay. Yes. Sergio just respond to my reverse. You can model a reverse mortgage line of credit with a custom withdrawal feature. Yes. So the custom withdrawal feature, my goodness, you can model that right there, however you want to model it. It's freaking fantastic.
Yeah.
How would you? Oh, this is a good question. So you're the 712 guy. How would you?
I am the 712 guy.
How would you suggest categorizing investments that don't fit the four listed categories? A good question, Joe.
Well, I've been showing you the big database. This goes back to 1926, but this maroon tab right here, that's 7 asset classes. Okay, it's not 712 because the 712 model is 12 different asset classes, but this is 7 asset classes. So we've added non-U.S. stock, we've added real estate, and we've added commodities.
Oh, sweet.
So you've got a little bit more granularity in your allocations, and it's the same approach here: your age, your starting balance, your allocations, your cost, your method of withdrawal, and then you've got your ending balance here. And you scroll down, you've got some additional metrics. You've got kind of a Monte Carlo looking graph. It's not Monte Carlo, but it looks like it.
Yeah, right on.
And then you've got your rolling returns. So yeah, the software is kind of like a pyramid. It has a lot of tunnels that allow for some additional, in this case, granularity in the kind of things you're investing in.
Would that go back to 1926 too, like even the commodities and stuff? Because do we have?
And the reason this is this only goes back to 1970. That's as far back as I can go with these 7 asset classes right here.
Yep. All right, that makes sense. We don't have the data for that. Actually, I was just literally just reading an article on the SBBI, talking about
Ibbotson stuff.
Yeah, talking about the bonds, and they was literally just using one bond. And I was like, I was like, oh, that's kind of creepy. I didn't know that. I was like, Eesh. So I mean, we don't have the data, guys, for commodities. I mean, we didn't. It's actually pretty interesting. I did not know that. I didn't think about it, but this guy made a good point. He said the market for treasury bonds back in the old days was not anything like it is now. The fluidity, because there wasn't that much government debt, and their government was trying to pay off all their bonds. Now it's like a whole different ballgame today than it was just 50 years ago. I never thought about that. It was pretty interesting, actually. Gills, will the spreadsheet work on Libra or Open Office? I'm not even sure what that is. Do you know what that is, Craig? Libra?
So that's dicey. Open Office, it should. What was the first one?
Libra, Libre.
Yeah, I can't verify that. So one option is I just send it to you, and if it works, then you can pay me.
Yeah, 100%. Craig's he's a good guy, man. He'll work with you if you can't get to work for sure. We already talked about other assets. Yeah, all right, right on, tall. We talked about that. So it's not fund specific, Chicken Charlie. It's what's the word I'm looking for? Not allocation specific. It's large stocks, small stocks, but it's not fund specific. Just that.
No, we're using index data.
Yes.
So when you come down, here's the indexes right here. So the S&P 500, the Ibbotson Small Stock, Russell 2000. When the Russell 2000 came into being.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's another one.
Those are your indexes. So you have mutual funds and ETFs that mimic all of these indexes. Of course, they weren't around back in 1926. So it's raw index data that it provides the engine for all the calculations. But because each of these indexes is now represented by any number of mutual funds that are index based and any number of ETFs, you're studying reality. You're just doing it through the lens of index returns.
Absolutely. It's all based on the index as opposed to the actual ticker, if that makes sense. How would you represent Wellington in there? That'd be basically 65-35 to large cap stocks, Denise, and intermediate bonds, essentially.
Right. Right. You would probably do a little higher there. I don't think Wellington has a big allocation to small cap. So it's probably like 55, 10, for probably 33 and 8. I don't even think they keep, no, like 25 or like 30 and 5. That's probably Vanguard Wellington will look something like that allocation.
Yeah, you just look on Morningstar or even Vanguard, it'll give you the actual breakdown. And Craig's got on the other button there, he's got it where you can use a 7 allocation models, commodities, real estate, and all that. I wouldn't beat this over the head too much. I mean, because, like Jill asked about mid cap stocks. Everything, what's a mid cap today is not necessarily mid cap tomorrow. What is, in fact, we can't even have defined definitions of what a small, mid, and large are anymore. I mean, everyone's different in terms of defining these things. Pretty good idea. Russell 2000, we know that's a small cap. Not so easy to differentiate between mid, small, and anymore, or mid and large. So I just don't go overwhelming here. Just say large, small, real estate, commodities, bonds, international, and the cash, I guess.
I wish the 712 model had 50 years of data. I would love that, but there's only 25 because TIPS were invented in 1997. So 1998 is the first full calendar year that all 12 asset classes in the 712 model can be actually measured. So this 7 asset model kind of catches the spirit of 712, but it's not as diversified as your question pointed out. And I do love midcap, and I like it that you like midcap. So
where you'd stick those? Would you stick them on the small or the large?
I would probably stick a mid cap allocation in the small.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I thought you were going to say large
because small and medium tend to outperform large cap more often than not, as the S&P 500 is market cap weighted, and as the big monster cap stocks have really been dominating the S&P 500 return over the last 5 or 6 years, particularly. Large cap has really done well, but the mid cap really is kind of a sweet spot, and there is a mid cap premium. There's a small cap value premium, and here again, I'd love to be able to, have small cap value as a tilt. So what this spreadsheet does is it gives you sort of the gross picture of asset allocation, and then as you implement with all of these nuances that you're referring to, with a mid cap allocation, with a small cap value allocation, and so forth, with an emerging allocation. This spreadsheet gives you the general compass reading, and then as you implement, you use your GPS.
And don't forget, it was illegal to own and trade gold until 1971. I mean, so even using like things like commodities, we just don't have enough. There's not enough data to have any significant rolling time frames other than going on to the 70s. And that's for gold. Literally gold itself was made illegal in I think 1935 by FDR. So there's no market for that. And there's certainly not a market for international stocks back in the 1920s. I mean, a little bit.
Yeah.
So
the commodities here, of course, is a broad basket. It's the Goldman Sachs Commodity Index, and in that particular index, it's largely energy. So a broad basket commodities fund like PDBC or GCC, any number of commodities funds. What I'm trying to simulate here historically is what we refer to as a broad basket.
Yeah.
So it's not, there is gold, but usually gold is a small sliver in a broad basket commodities fund. Most generally, the largest allocation in a broad basket commodities exposure is energy.
That's
So
interesting.
oil, natural gas, and so forth.
I guess what I'm saying is that the data set for historical returns is still quite minimal, frankly.
Yes, yes.
And we have the S&P, and forget, it wasn't in the S&P 500 back in the 20s. It was the S&P 100, wasn't it? I think it was like it didn't come to the S&P 500 until I don't know, but it wasn't in the S&P 500. In fact, the bulk of that
Yeah.
even was like railroad stocks. You know what I'm saying?
The 500 does track back to 1926, which is fortunate, but one of the things about the 500 that should kind of alarm people is that market cap weighting naturally turns an index into a growth leaning index.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so when here's one of these nuances. When you implement, you're using all these index based results to get a sense of, okay, my portfolio can likely handle a 6% withdrawal rate historically. And so I'm going to use a 6% going forward, let's say.
Yeah.
Then as you implement, you could use an equally weighted S&P 500 exposure, an ETF that's equally weighted if you want to get away from the market cap. So this is a tool for analysis.
Yeah.
And then there are other tools for the actual implementation of your specific portfolio that would draw upon much more recent sort of, well, in the ETF world, for example.
Yeah.
ETFs offer incredible granularity in what you're investing in. And the trick there is to not end up with 45 ETFs.
Exactly.
It's just, that's why I built the 712 model, was to get people that didn't have enough tickers up to maybe 12, and the people who had 47 tickers to get them down to 12.
Exactly.
Because if you have 47 tickers, you're guaranteed to have a lot of redundancy.
And you're not going to be able to track that. I mean, it's just, I see these Schwab portfolios, and they got the intelligent portfolio, and I'm like, there's no one's tracking this. It's a push button investment stuff. I get that, but in terms of an individual's ability to see what they have and manage it, it's not going to happen because they got stuff all over the place. Craig is a big fan of Vanguard ETFs, right, Craig? And
I like Vanguard. They've done it. They do a good job. They don't, obviously, their expense ratios are very attractive, but Fidelity, has a lot of very attractively priced. When I say priced, I mean expense ratio. Schwab has some. They're all pretty. They're not competitive across the board with Vanguard, but Schwab and Fidelity in particular have responded to what Vanguard started doing years ago, and that's just making products more affordable. And that's why, as we went back to the one graph, we had 100 basis points entered in. Well, let me tell you something. You can build a portfolio for 20, but you can build the 712 portfolio for 20 basis points. The Vanguard ETF 712 model is about 20 basis points. So I know that's realistic because I've built it. And in the 712 reports, that's for people that really are really desirous to get the cost down, then that's doable.
Yeah.
But I don't think that cost should be such a powerful driver that it begins to wag the dog.
Yeah.
It is a vital component, but the most important thing in a portfolio, as far as the ticker selection, is to combine tickers that are good teammates for each other. That doesn't mean they're going to be 5-star funds. They probably will be, but not necessarily. The star rating doesn't tell you anything about how fund X interacts with fund Y.
Right.
That's a totally separate issue, and that's what I try to deal with when I write the 712 reports. Is you got to pay attention to the correlation matrix, and that's not something that a lot of people want to mess with. Well, that's what I do mess with, and so anyway, the cost is important, but there's a number of important things.
Dave says he thinks Google Sheets can read Excel files. Yes, that's 100%. I use Google Sheets too, Dave, and I got a MacBook Air, and I just I use Google Chrome. I think I'm on Google Chrome, and it works. It's I actually have come to love Google Sheets, which is weird. Never thought I would. It's not as fluid as Excel, but man, it works pretty good, man. So I think you're right. But I can't say that for your stuff, Craig, specific. I just don't know. But I would imagine
you just have to run at it and see if it flies.
100%. All right. Looks like we've answered all those questions. This is so, guys. I've been using financial planning software for a long, long time, and Craig had given me the a little bit of info before we had this chat. And initially, I said, okay, it looks good, and I respect Craig and I trust his stuff here. This just blew me away. What he just did right there just scratched the surface. I mean, I'm actually quite stunned how much stuff he's gotten here. And for someone who's addicted to spreadsheets, which I wish I would not, this is going to be a fun summer when I use this because I mean, and Craig, I'm going to be using this, like I said, in my reverse RMD book because I think that. But my premise is reverse RMD with low expected rates of return relative to historical numbers, just like you just did.
Yeah.
And if we can make that work. In those scenarios with the same standard deviations, just 200 basis, 300 basis point discount on the average rates of return, man. And then people say, but I need a 30-year retirement. You can model that. Just it takes a little bit of work, not that hard. But I'm just sitting there thinking, all right, the life expectancy for a woman who's 65 is like 88, if even that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, not very many people live until they're 95. And people like Rick Edelman say, we're all going to live to 120. Now, I personally believe Noah did live hundreds and hundreds of years. I truly believe in the old days, we lived longer because we're eating better. We're out in the sun. We're doing things, following God's word and whatnot. And I think we've lost a lot of that, which is why we're dying. And I think our life expectancy is actually being destroyed as we sit here today because we've become pretty big sinners in the good old US of A. That's just my take on it. But if you need a 30-year retirement, you can model it in here. But 25 years is fine, man. I mean, my goodness. And you can last from 65 to 25. That's 90 years old. How many people?
But the other way to do it is, let's say you have a starting, because I'm sensitive to the 30-year and 35-year windows, because some people do live that long. That's the beauty of using the spreadsheet in 5-year intervals. So at 73, at 73, you use the spreadsheet, and see how things work out. Then 7 years later, you're 80. Well, you have a new balance then. So you enter that balance, it's 1.2 million. And then now you have the next, now you have 25 years on top of 80. So even though it doesn't do 30 years all at once, you can do 25-year increments. And then 5 years goes. Now look at the next 25 years. And so you essentially, if you were to use this program every 5 years, you're stretching out. I think you know what I'm saying.
What I'm saying, absolutely. It's just it works fine. The issue I have is a lot of funny. I just read some guy the other day. He's like, "Oh, we're going to be playing." Who is it was actually got a retirement from J.P. Morgan. Now they're saying like 40 years in retirement. I'm like, where is this stuff coming from, man? The life, whatever. I don't care. But just like, come on, let's get by 25 years first, and if we can last that long, we'll worry about from 85 till 90 or 90 to 95 later on when our knees are broken, our hips are replaced, and basically we're all $6 million men at that point.
Lee Majors.
Right. Does this? Yeah, it did have inflation entry that can be entered. Just reconfirm that, Craig. Is there inflation in there someplace? I can't.
Yeah. So the quick view tab is where you deal with inflation. I didn't show you the quick view, but the quick view is, mini dashboard. So the mini dashboard, you've got your gross, average ending balance, your real inflation adjusted average ending balance, your actual average withdrawal. Your blue is the needed withdrawal to keep pace with inflation. So the mini dashboard, they're all just these weird little names, the tabs. This particular one is the one that deals with inflation. So you've got graphs that tackle inflation. Then you've got just little snippets of inflation-based details down here, down here, down here. So you've got inflation information sprinkled throughout the primary tabs, and then you have a dedicated tab that really focuses on inflation. You don't enter it. Inflation's already entered. There's the CPI right here. There's the consumer price index. So you're dealing with actual annual CPI as it happened each and every year. I don't deal with inflation as a 25-year average. I deal with inflation as an annual event in every calculation. In other words, it's a more, in my view, it's a more correct way of dealing with inflation
100%.
because over a 25-year period, I can express inflation as an average,
Yep.
but I don't experience it year to year as a 25-year average. I experience it year to year as a year-to-year event.
100%, Craig. A pet peeve of mine is I've got 3% inflation. And like, well, that's not what happened in 73, 74, 75. You see what I'm saying? So
right.
there should be a Monte Carlo for inflation as well as a Monte Carlo for investment returns too, because there is a standard deviation of volatility as well. Yeah, Denise, CPI included. This gets better every 100% because it's real world data. Real world data. Your investment returns are doing something in 73, 74, and inflation is doing something as well in those 2 years. There's no average there for inflation. It's Jill, yeah, no, I get it, Jill. I mean, you started young, 100%. Look, I'm not bashing you for saying you want a 30-year thing. I just, you could do that in the software. It's just, it'll take, a couple extra clicks. No big deal. Where I'm saying, Jill, is my issue is these people are saying we all need a plan for 30. Now they're saying 35 and 40 years in retirement. I find that to be silly. I don't buy that at all. Rick Edelman will say, I mean, he's literally said we're all going to live to 120. And I find that to be preposterous, man. I don't understand the basis for that. If you actually look at the life expectancies, as any normal person would do who's been in this business for so long, you don't start it from an infant. You start it from someone who's 60 or 65. Because the infant mortality, well, because we did Ignox Semmelweis, we started washing our hands before delivering babies, the infant mortality rate went down big time, which led to an increase in life expectancy. That's for a baby being born. But for someone who's about to retire, I don't think he's a baby. So what our life expectancy for someone who's 60 or 65 has gone up by 8 years or so over the last 100 years. That's not indicative at all that we're all going to live into 120. And it's a pet peeve of mine because people think, oh my goodness, I'm 62. I don't have enough money to retire because I got to live for another 60 years. And there's no evidence of this. It's just pure speculation. It's bullcrap, especially when we literally see now the life expectancy is starting to decline. And I don't want to get into why, but I think we all know why the life expectancies are declining over the last couple of years. But we had my man, I don't know his name, but he says, Craig, do you think a 5% distribution, this is just your personal opinion, what's your take on someone taking out 5% a year as opposed to the Bengen 4% rule? Do you have any thoughts on that? It's just a speculation on your, do you have any thoughts on that in terms of, I think you're on mute. Did you? I can't hear you. Craig, you're muted. Oh, I think we lost him. Oh no, I see him. Nope, still don't hear you. Oh man. Will Hangs 88, you really upset the apple cart with that. Craig, can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. We can't hear you, man. Are y'all hearing Craig? I'm not hearing him. Did I do something? Oh, something just happened.
Oh,
there we go. Cool. Yeah,
somehow I not even seeing that mute thing. I clicked it. Oh, so the yeah, the spreadsheet allows you to ask those questions of the data.
Right, exactly.
And so if you went to a 5% withdrawal rate, well, let me show you something kind of cool. this allows you to do a side by side. I haven't shown you this one yet. So let's go to
Craig, stop it. It's like Christmas in July, man, or May.
yeah. So this is a side by side comparison with data back to 1970. Okay, so this is the 7 asset classes. Let's create an identical portfolio all the way across the board. So I'm just matching up with the stuff in blue, 0, 0. Okay. This one, they're both going to have 100 basis points of cost. This one, let's go back to here. Let's go to 4%. And then come to the twin. Let's go this to 5%. All right. So there you go. There's your side-by-side comparison. So your portfolio 1 is your blue, okay? Your portfolio 2 is your purple, and that's with your 5% withdrawal. So with a 5% withdrawal, you get about, what, $7,200 more dollars per year. So that's the portfolio 1 advantage. Portfolio 1 is your 4% withdrawal. So where you see a negative, well, that just means, I mean, if you're a 4% withdrawal, you're going to take out about 7,000 less per year. Your total 25-year withdrawal, the sum of all your annuals, will be about 180,000 less. And your average ending balance is, with a 4% withdrawal, it's about 3.4 million with a million start, and about 2.65 million with a 5% withdrawal. So you can really get at those kind of questions in this side-by-side analysis. You can just tinker I mean, I've spent a lot of, I was going to say hours, but it wouldn't be measured in hours, it'd be measured in weeks or months, both building this and using it to sort of entertain my own curiosities.
Yeah. That's that, folks, are you kidding me? You've never seen anything like this. There's nothing out there like this right now that you can e-money. Nope. My right capital. Nope. My right capital I love because I love the 1040. You can see the 1040 and tax and stuff. But from a portfolio perspective, there's nothing like this, man. No, no, sorry, Bob. And Craig's going to give it to you half off because you go through me or whatnot. You don't have to go through me, but you just tell. We gotta get like a promo code or something like that, like promo code Josh or something.
Yeah,
Craig,
I mean, when you email me, I'll know you're coming from Josh if you email me. But just indicate, you saw it on Josh's podcast, and then for sure you'll get the discount.
Oh, 100%. All right. Well, Craig, we've kept you longer than you anticipated.
Well, I'm glad you had questions.
No, this is fantastic, man. We got 100 roughly. We average about 150 people here tonight. All right, so again, and I'll hang on here, guys. We'll let Craig get on to other things in Utah, but
okay.
Craig. So I'll put the links in the show notes. We'll touch base here shortly. I'm in terms of emails, what we want to do next and things like that. But in the interim, if you guys look at the show notes and you see Craig's email and you want to touch base with him, just say you saw in this podcast, and he'll arrange for you to pay him, and he'll get you stuff. And if it doesn't work, just email him back. Say, Craig, I can't get it to work, and I can't say he'll refund you, but he already said that. So
I will.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. All right. Good stuff, Greg. God bless, man. And I'll email you later on for sure.
Okay. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you. See you, man. Thank you, sir. Oh my goodness. Tell me that didn't crush. That was fantastic. I've never seen anything like that. Look, I love that. That is. And have you ever done cocaine? I never had. I'm too hyper. If I did cocaine, it'd probably kill me. Imagine that's how I felt watching this as someone who probably did cocaine and say, something, I'm ready to party like it's 1999. And I'm like, you're going to get that for $100, because you on this YouTube channel thing, whatever. And then you renew it, you say $50 a year. Are you crazy? Let's just say you had access to Right Capital. And you had access to this software right here. I'm actually thinking about offering Right Capital again to some people. I'm thinking about it because actually I got a lot of business from people having Right Capital. Believe it or not, they paid me for it. Then they wanted me to do business with them. I said, I'm thinking about doing that again. Look, man, when times get tight, you got to find ways to make money. That's a fact. Oh, but Josh, your business is failing. No, the business isn't failing, but times get tight. You got to find a way to expand your business. That's all there is to it. So I'm thinking about it, offering it again, because I actually got business from having people subscribe to Right Capital, and with minimal effort on my part, and then pay me for my services later. Some people probably would have paid me for my services, but then they said I got Right Capital. I don't think so. I don't think that's the case. Anyway, if you had Right Capital in this, dude, I mean, what you don't? I mean, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. It's already been done. It's crazy. Anyway, Sergio made a good point, that right here, that AUM is assets under management. This is how investment advisors. I don't want to call them financial planners, because if they're getting paid on managing money, their primary source of business is in managing investments. Now they might do financial planning on the side, but they're not going to do financial planning in lieu of investments by and large. So the AUM, assets under management model, that's what we've been dealing with for the last 15 years or so. It used to be commissions. I actually got no problem with commissions. I don't like churning, but basically paying a guy, Ed Jones, 5% to for $100,000 invested in A shares American funds. I don't. That had no problem with me at all. Now, if you're paying that, and he's doing that every 2 years with Putnam, and then going to Oppenheimer, then going back to American funds, that's churning. That's illegal. You shouldn't be doing that. And the people doing that need to be held accountable. I don't think that happened quite as much as the fiduciaries made it seem like, oh, we're selling you stuff for commissions. No one does that anymore, frankly. I mean, some people, but very few do. And the ones who did, if they did it right, they're actually saving you a bunch of money, because they're putting you in a front end A share where you paid 5% on the front end, $5,000, and then there's a 25 basis point trail. So you put $100,000 in, you're 5,000 coming off the top to the advisor. That used to be me. And then you start with $95,000, and then you're paying 25 basis points each and every year is what's called a 12B1 fee, a trail. I had no qualm with that at all, man. I thought it was a good business model, other than churning. And now we have the exact opposite, where people think that's evil. So now we're gonna have these AUM models where you're getting paid 1.5%, and you're like, what exactly are you doing for that fee? Well, we're putting in 40 different ETFs. We're pushing a button to rebalance on occasion. You don't need a guy to do that. Robo advisors can do that for 20 basis points. And I don't even think that's necessary. You don't need to do that either. So what are you getting for that? Well, we're doing financial planning. Okay, well, charge with the friggin' financial planning then. You know what I'm saying? I mean, why you got to charge 1% on $1 million portfolio? That's $10,000. And a lot of these guys will charge for financial planning on top of that. It's friggin' ludicrous. It's not good. It's not good for financial planning business. For my own, I love financial planning, because a lot of financial planners are legit righteous people, man. And I don't like the fact that we allow ourselves to be minimized because of the fee structure we have. And then they went from the commission-based model to this quote fiduciary model, where everyone thinks they're all that in a bag of chips. I'm like, you're charging 1.5 points, dude. You're not, creative planning. I'll give you a perfect example of guys that are probably worth that. Because they do everything. And I know people at creative planning, and I like creative planning. It's expensive, but you're getting your value for it. And I mean, I can't tell you you're getting your value for it, but I know people manage money over there. They do everything. They do tax, they do the wills, the trust, all that stuff. That's worth it. But if you're just paying 1% to talk to a guy once every 6 months to talk about your investments, what are you getting for that? You know what I'm saying? You can just dump it into Vanguard and be done with it. But anyway, the point being is what Sergio is saying is, when you have access to the software, you have more and more AI coming down the pike. It's going to be tough for financial planners to make ends meet here, because all this stuff can be automated and done as a DIY. So they better up their game. And that's for me too, frankly. There's no other way around that. But anyway, it's tough, because I tell you, you build a basic on the investment side, you build a model. And I love my man, Nick Murray. He was actually a huge impact on my life. He never met me, but he had written a book, The New Financial Advisor, where you're trying to build, basically an arc. You're Noah, and you're allowing a certain amount of people on your arc. And people, you choose the people to get on your arc. They don't choose you, you choose them. And if they're not a good fit, you kick them off your arc, because you recognize that your skill set is such that a certain amount of people are going to want to hire you and pay your fee. And once you get that arc built, no one else comes on. You know what I'm saying? The only other way someone comes on is if someone goes off. I always like that the model was always, I loved it, man. The point being was, his argument was, once you get a certain, let's say $100 million of assets under management. So you have 200 people on the arc. The average was $500,000. You have $100 million of assets under management. You're charging 1%. That's $1 million of revenue right there. You don't get to keep all of it. You got to pay for people. I get all that. But he's basically saying you could probably live off $500,000 a year just by keeping the people on your arc happy so they don't jump ship, if that makes sense. That's always a good business model to strive for. And you figure it might take 5, might take 10 years, but then it's like an annuity. Essentially, you have all this assets under management. You're managing it. Hopefully, it's growing. You're keeping your clients happy. You don't need any more clients, but it takes about 5 to 10 years to get that 100 million. That's not easy, and it's I tried. I was a quarter of the way there. I had 25 million, and then 2008 was actually 2007 hit, and all of a sudden I didn't have 25 million anymore. I was in the business for 4 years as a broker. I got up to 25 million of assets under management. 2000s, the end of 2007 happened, and then I was like, my 25 million wasn't 25 million because the market went down. And all of a sudden I'm like, and not only that was people not only the market take away a good proportion of my assets under management, the people who remain, a number of them wanted to get out of the market because they didn't want to get killed anymore. So I was getting 1% on 25 million. All of a sudden it's 1% on 13 million, if that makes sense. That's a 50% hit to my income. And then you go out there prospecting for new business, and people don't want to get involved because I'm not going to the market. You guys are, we're getting killed. And that's where I had to say, I threw up my hands. I said, I'm not going to be able to succeed when I got 4 kids to feed. But anyway, so that's the issue of the AUM model, is that a lot of these guys have spent the last 5 to 10 years building up sizable, what's called books of business. They got $50, $100 million of assets under management. They're charging a percent. Let's just say that, for example. So they're netting, when all said and done, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 of income after fees and all that. And they did that with blood, sweat, and tears. Hard labor in terms of getting, doing, like I used to do seminar. I freaking drive to West Virginia in the middle of the night in the wintertime. I'd do a seminar, anywhere. I'd making cold calls. I'd be freaking out the PTAs. I'd be driving all up to Winchester, Virginia, down to West Virginia, down to I'd go over to Roanoke. I'd go over to the eastern side of Virginia. Anywhere and anywhere, I'd be doing seminars. As long as someone to hear me talk, that was a potential client, if that made sense. And I was working my ass off, dude. And after 5 years, I said, all right, I'm starting to build this. I can feel it. And then boom. And just like that, you just see what I'm saying? And I'll never forget, Michael Kitts has talked about after basically April 2020. And he's a big name in my industry, and I like Kitts. And he had mentioned that he was getting a lot of emails from advisors, fiduciary advisors, just saying, man, my income's down 35% because of market and people are getting out. I need to find a different way to make money. I said this whole problem with fiduciary model. The fiduciary model is contingent on getting paid for assets under management. And if the assets under management, the flow stops for whatever reason, you still got to earn an income. How do you earn an income then? You see what I'm saying? And I'll never forget that. I said, see, it's good while the markets are going up, the gravy's flowing. But the minute we have a sidetrack or even a downfall, all of a sudden the fiduciary advisors are scrambling, saying, "Oh, maybe that wasn't all it was cracked up to be." And you still got a mortgage, you still got kids to pay, you still got to pay bills. It's a challenge, man. And there's no right or wrong answer. It's just like any business. So every single business is a challenge. There's no other way around that. But anyway, so I thought it was a pretty good observation by Sergio. But it's tough to get when you're addicted to that. You wake up on the 1st of January. You got 100 million of assets under management. You say, man, as long as the market doesn't go down 35%, as long as my clients don't leave, I know I'm going to net $1 million, gross $1 million this year without even doing anything. And that's a very, very addictive business proposition. And you can't blame people for not wanting to go away from that. The problem is how many people are willing to pay anymore that 1% on their $1 million. Not very many. They've done surveys. Very, very few people. So you got a small group of people willing to pay 1% on their entire retirement portfolio. And you got a huge amount of advisors all sniping for that one group of people. That's why Fisher in their commercials say, the vast majority of our clients come from other financial planning firms. Yeah, exactly. Because those are people who are already willing to pay a fee. The vast majority of people aren't willing to pay a fee. So Fisher's poaching from other clients. And Fisher's being poached from other firms, I should say. And Fisher's being poached from other firms because there's a small subset of the population is willing to pay 1% on their sizable asset base to make it profitable for investment advisors. And there's just not enough to serve all the investment advisors out there. So they're poaching off each other. And how they do that? returns. And that's where Nick Murray calls renting money. And this, I had a guy the other day to talk to, he gave Fisher some money. He said, Fisher's done good to me. I'll keep it till they do good. The minute they don't do good, I'm leaving. And I said, I don't blame him. My clients say, yeah, I don't understand what I'm saying. As long as they're serving you right, but they won't serve you right all the time. And the minute that doesn't happen, then you're taking your money away. And that's called renting assets to somebody else who's got a better sales pitch or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? In this case, this guy's like, look, Fisher solicited me. I said, I'll hear you out. I'll give you some money, see what you can do with it. So far, so good. But the minute that turns, I'm leaving. So I have to build a long base on that. Yeah, look at Steven. Mine is blown. What I'm saying, Craig rocks. Craig kicks ass. Pretty cool. I'm emailing Michael Edison today, who's one of my heroes in this realm of financial planning, because he's a mathematician who's not afraid to call like he sees it and call out the industry, who got a book sent to him from Nassim Nicholas Taleb. And Nassim Nicholas Taleb doesn't know me from Adam, but the facts are, 2 degrees of separation with Taleb. How cool is that? Craig Israelsen, who I've been following for years, because I always loved the 712 stuff and Financial Planning Magazine and Horse's Mouth and whatnot, like we talked about a couple weeks ago. And now, I say we're friendly. I'm not saying it's my friend necessarily. I would say I'm my friend. If you're cool with me, I'm your friend. But be that as it may, we're friendly towards each other, all because of this YouTube channel. How cool is that, man? Freaking, I haven't paid Craig anything. He didn't pay me anything. Just said, hey, I like what you're doing. I got a sizable audience who like to hear what you have to say. Come on board. So sure. How dare you, James? Late to the freaking James. James, you're wrong answer. How dare you? Yeah, right on. This is such quality content. Yeah. Well, Denise, that's what you get from my backwards I guess my t-shirt's on up, right side up. 100%, man. I tell you, you know who you are, my friend in Tejas. Think about the fun you'll have messing around with that spreadsheet. All the what ifs. Oh my goodness. Look at Judy B. My main retirement income. I don't know what that says. Mortgage. Late to the podcast. Had to drop my dogs off at my dad's house. I would subscribe to Right Capital and get your service as well. Oh yeah, right on. James, you're not James, you're not in Right Capital? Oh, James, I'll hook you up, man. Just email me, James. I'll get you for free. I'm glad you brought that. Anyone who's on my locals channel, I'll get them Right Capital for free, man. Absolutely. I'll put the link in I can't, off the top of my head, I can't remember. I'll put the link in the show notes. I don't recall off the top of my head. Yeah, right on, James, going to Georgia. Book of business, 100%, man. 712 portfolio. Josh has integrity and honesty. How dare you, James? I have to say that I felt like a 5-year-old in Times Square at Christmas with that software. How diddly dog dare you say? So what you're saying there, a 5-year-old in Times Square at Christmas sounds like hell on earth to me, Steven. Can you imagine? Next thing you know, you're gonna have Cher playing in the background. Do you believe in life after love? And let me guess, Steven, you're gonna like to be on there on New Year's Eve too. You're gonna be on there New Year's Eve with Anderson Cooper and who's that gay guy who's getting drunk with on CNN with Cher in the background with friggin' De Blasio as a mayor. I bet that's your Christmas Eve, right? That's your New Year's Eve party. I want to hear Cher with De Blasio, with Anderson Cooper and the other gay guy, and I want to have my mask on. I want to be triple, quadruple, quintuple jabbed in New York City in the middle of the freezing cold. Yeah, it's going to be great. Hell on earth. Oh, what's Hank Williams say? If heaven ain't a lot like Dixie, I don't want to go. I got to find that. Hold on a second. I got to think. You'd send me to hell or New York City. It'd be about the same to me. That's what Hank Williams sings. If heaven ain't a lot like Dixie, I don't want to go. Something. I gotta have to find the lyrics now. Hank Williams Jr. Bocephus. Hank Williams Jr. If heaven ain't a lot like Dixie lyrics. Heaven. Oh, you want to get to heaven? If heaven ain't a lot like Dixie, come on, man. If heaven. That's not what I want. If heaven ain't a lot like Dixie, if heaven ain't a lot like Dixie. Oh my goodness, how dare he has a Confederate flag on his album cover. Didn't Amazon ban that? I was one, the chosen few to be born in Alabama. I'm just like my daddy's son. I'm proud of who I am. I went through a lot of good women. See, and this is where feminism came along, man, because all these guys in the 70s were, let's just put it this way, they were doing things they should have kept in their pants. And then when they didn't keep in their pants and women got pregs, they left them high and dry. Can you blame women for turning to feminism, man? I tell you, yeah, come on, Hank, keep in your pants. I shook old Jim Beam's hand. If I never see the pearly gates, I've walked right here. If heaven ain't a lot, if they don't have a grand old Opry like they do down in Tennessee, just send me to hell or New York City. It'd be about the same to me. Hank 3 is pretty good. I don't know if you followed Hank 3. That's Hank Williams Jr.'s son. Kind of like a metalhead, which I enjoy very much. I've never done portfolio reviews. FYI, I don't do portfolio reviews. I'm not keen on, and I mean, I obviously talk about people when I'm doing financial planning on their investments, but I don't say, hey, let's take a look at your portfolio and see what changes you should make. No, I have no desire to get involved in telling people to buy X over Y. None whatsoever. Allocating is different. Like I was talking to this guy today, I did a video on. I said, look, just put some money. He's got $250,000 in cash and not paying him crap. I said, dude, put $200,000 and right now in your 3% CD at your local bank. That paid my fee, just that move right there alone. For him, my fee was $1,250 because he had net worth under $1 million. So he made his fee. He probably would have done it anyway, but he wanted a little kick in the pants from your old buddy Josh. I said, man, Bill, just go down to your freaking local bank right now, put that $200,000 on CD. You're gonna get $6,000 interest over the year. And that covered your fee right there. He also was wondering, should he roll over his 401k? I said, I wouldn't do that yet. I was talking to a guy yesterday. I said, don't do that because he was, he's going to retire at 55. So leave your money in your 401k because the 55 rule, you don't want to roll that money over to an IRA because then you lose a 55 rule where you have to pay a penalty under distributions because this guy's going to need to take some distributions. It's actually pretty funny. So this guy was, nice guy, crushes. Yeah, he's going to turn 55 this year, 54. He's like, something. I'm ready. I'm ready, man. I'm ready. I've done everything I can in the corporate world. I've made all the money I'm possibly going to make. I can make more, but why? Why? You know what I'm saying? He goes, all I know is, I don't want to say too much, but I talk to people all the time that are in this guy's town. It's a nice town, if you know what I'm saying. He goes, and they're all older. They're all like 70. You're like, they're too old to really enjoy much because, their wife has died or their husband's died or they're just getting rickety and stuff. He goes, I'm not someone I want to be. I want to enjoy it while I still have young and I can fight the good fight. And he's married, so the guy crushes. AI won't have a problem. 100%, man. We get mailers all the time looking for seminars, and those called. So Andrew, if you get a seminar invite, just FYI, believe it or not, in the industry, if you go to a seminar, and this is what I tell people all the time who get these invites, go. And even if you don't buy their services, you're actually helping them. I cannot stress this enough. So what I'm talking about, you get an email, you get a letter in the mail that says, come to our seminar. We're going to talk about all the pitfalls of retirement planning. And we're going to have, Ruth's Chris, or we're going to have freaking, I don't know, whatever, what I'm saying? They'll have a local, fancy schmancy, good time rock and roll steakhouse. And what happens is, because I used to do this, all right? So we used to be, back in the days when you could, we'd have a wholesaler, basically an insurance company, essentially, a variable annuity insurance company financing our seminars for the most part. Now, those days are kind of gone, but anyway, the point being is, so you'd go to these seminars. If you did not get a good turnout, you looked like an idiot. I'm telling you, I've had seminars I had hardly any turnout at all, and it's embarrassing. I've had seminars where I've had a big turnout with a lot of what we call plate lickers. Plate lickers are people who just come to eat and then they listen to you and then they leave. They just want the free meal. And that's what, Andrew, you might be. You might be a plate licker. That's okay. Because the issue, I'm telling you right now, if you have a seminar of 20 buying units, all right, that's basically Andrew and Andrew's better half, Missy. Missy is Andrew's wife that somehow Andrew was able to hook. We don't know why. I guess he promised her, gold-plated ponies. And it turns out when she said yes, he said, ha ha, sucker. Then we got Andrew and Missy. That's a buying unit. And then let's say Andrew's a single guy. That's another buying unit. So you got 20 buying units. Literally, this is just all basic math here. Of the 20 buying units, all right, how many can you convert to prospects? And of those prospects, how many do you convert to clients? And so what would happen is it'd be 25 and 2, essentially, is what my rule of thumb would be. If I have 20 buying units, I'll convert 5 of those buying units. What's that? 20%, something like that. 5 divided, I think it's 20%. To prospects. Of those prospects, I'd convert 2 to clients. So I had a 10% client ratio for every seminar I did. Maybe it's 5, maybe it's 10. I can't remember off the top of it, but it's maybe 25 and 2, if that makes sense. So you knew if you did a seminar and you got 20 people out there, you'd have 2 clients every single time, essentially. And so what happens is, though, is you want to have the 20 people, because what happens with the plate lickers, they generate energy. I cannot stress this enough. There's an energy that comes when you have a bunch of people. A lot of times the people will be neighbors. They know each other and stuff. You see what I'm saying? And they generate this energy that makes the presenter shine. Because a presenter who's just dealing with a bunch of bored, freaking people that stick up their butts, that's not good. That's not entertaining, because it has to be entertaining. It's got to be informative and entertaining, but mostly you got to make people like you. And the way you make people like you is show your energy, so that you're fired up. You're ready, man. I'm ready to help you figure out what you're trying to do. It's fun. I love seminars. Loved it, because it's literally like you're acting. It's fun, man. And if you have a small crowd, I've had many. I did a VFW hall in West Virginia, Pendleton County, West Virginia. I had 3 buying units. And it's huge VFW hall. I knew I was going to get clients, and it was me and I had an assistant named Mandy, and we drove up there, and it freaking sucks, dude. Because like, man, I came all this way, set up, and we fed them the VFW hall, because in Pendleton County, I don't think it was Franklin, West Virginia, Morristown, maybe it was Pocahontas County. I can't remember. Anyway, it was a small West Virginia town, and I thought that'd have a bigger turnout. It was in the middle of hunting season, so that was my own fault. And I think we had as inclement weather that day too. Long story short, I had a bad feeling it was going to get a bad turnout, and we only had 3 buying units, and I didn't get any clients. So that was a waste of my time. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't know, and that's still worth the. But if I would much rather had 20 freeload, 20 of which 15 were freeloaders, plate lickers, because that creates an energy that says, oh, this guy's in high demand. I'm telling you, if you get those things, and back then, by then, I had to finance the seminars on my own. You see what I'm saying? So you basically pay per head. So you're saying the VFW hall, I'd do it anywhere, dude. I'd do it in the middle of cemetery at freaking Halloween, waiting for the Great Pumpkin. I didn't care. I literally didn't care, man. I can't tell you how many PTA meetings I set up a table outside. It was nuts. And you do it anywhere in any place, and you talk to anybody. It's nuts. You just talk to people. And I enjoyed it. It's freaking hard. I used to go cold knocking like Ed Jones used to do, knocking on people's houses, knocking on businesses. I'll never forget, we had this pharmacy in Bridgewater, Virginia, and she treated me like crap. I'll never forget that. I said, man, she was an independent pharmacist, and she wasn't busy. She might have been busy. She might have had a bad day. But I walked in there and said, hey, I can't remember what my sales pitch was. Like, are you interested in learning how to do, add more money to your 401k plan? Because I used to try to sell a lot of 401k plans to business owners, either solo 401ks or 401ks that we'd use through American funds for small shops. That way the business owner could defer a lot more money than they were doing it. Like, it used to be a simple IRA these business owners would do, and a 401k plan is much, much better. And a lot of times they're intimidated by a 401k because of 5,500 and all this. And American funds had it down. We didn't need to do any of that crap. American is all turnkey. It was great. It's great. I had a couple of big dental firms that were big clients of mine from doing that. Anyway, long story short, so I remember going to Bridgewater Pharmacy in Bridgewater, Virginia, and there was no one in there. I just walked in probably 10:30 in the morning. It's freezing cold day, probably getting rained on. I said, hey, would you be interested in learning how you can put more into your retirement plans? And she was like rude to me. I'll never forget that. I said, okay. I'm not coming back to you. You know what I'm saying? If I need a pharmacy fulfillment, I'll never get that. You know what I'm saying? It was very interesting. And I had other people that are nice. They said, come on back. And, that's where I got a lot of dental hygienists for clients. A lot of dental hygienists. They made money in Virginia, man. Dental hygienists back then, they're making like $80,000 a year, and they only had to work 3 to 4. They could pick out their schedules. So it's a great client base. And for some reason, ladies always, I guess I talk on a level they can understand. I'm down to earth, so the ladies always, appreciate me, as opposed to be like, oh, you come across like you're all that in a bag of chips. I never did. You know what I'm saying? And I was always had a good rapport with women who were just looking for someone down to earth, if that made sense. And a lot of these women were looked over by my people in my business because we all had the ties on and the cufflinks and we're all hoity-toity. And a lot of these guys would be, I always thought it was stupid to be focused on the man. I said, you're an idiot, dude. I tell people all the time, you focus on me when my wife's right there. First of all, that pisses me off. Second of all, you know who wears the pants in this crowd? It ain't me, man. It's her. If she gets and she knows she's a better judge of character than I be. If Charlotte freaking gets a bad opinion of you, it ain't happening, buddy. So you might want to freaking sweat her as opposed. Don't look at me, look at her. I'm telling you right now, because I'm a gullible. I signed the dotted line anywhere. Freaking Josh, I'm a Nigerian prince. Just sign this line. I'll send you 10 million bucks. You got it, sir. Charles like, no, this guy's a scumbag. Get him out of here. Like, okay, whatever, honey. Because look, she can tell people a mile away. I can't. I'm just gullible. Anyway, so we have people, sales guys come to our house on occasion. They're looking at me because, oh, I'm the man. I must wear the pants. You freaking idiot. You got a piece of her. Anyway, long story short, going back to Andrew said, long-winded answer here. Go to those things. Ask questions. Participate. You're helping the guy. And by the way, and I don't know how it's done anymore. It's been 15 years since I did this, going on 20 years. Did I say that? I said months. Shoot, it came out the other way. 20 years now. But it used to be a lot of the insurance variable annuity companies would finance it for you, and it'd be by the head. So you say, look, I got 20 heads, $40 a piece. It's going to cost $800, whatever that is. And if I get any business, I'll wink, wink. I'll make sure you get a portion of my business if it's suitable for the client. It had to be suitable. I'm not going to friggin' make a square peg fit in a round hole, if you know what I'm saying. But a lot of times it would be suitable because that would be what we talk about, that specific product of a variable annuity. And so it's already sunk cost. You've already paid for the amount of people RSVP. So you got 20 people, 20 buying units RSVP'd, $40 a pop, $800. You give it to the restaurant. They take care of all of it. And if only 10 people show up, you're still, you don't get a refund back because they already prepared 20 meals. And if only 10 people show up, that's not as much energy as 20 people show up. But now if you get too many people, this is what I don't understand. These guys who do these huge seminars do this. I don't understand that. You want to be intimate. Intimate? That sounds sexual. Not intimate. Yeah, maybe intimate. You want to be like, I guess it is intimate, so I'm looking for. You want to be intimate where people can feel comfortable asking questions without feeling like an idiot. You see what I'm saying? Or without having to go in front of 400 people they don't know. So an intimate setting, you know what I'm saying? That's what you want. And you want people to lay down their feeling of nervousness, or you're going to be a sales pitch. I'd always say right out the gate, the reason I'm doing this is to get new clients. Thus, I'm going to ask you to fill out this. I say right up front. That way, everyone knew to say, what's the sales pitch? The sales pitch is my trying to prove to you why you should hire me as your financial advisor. Thus, fill out this form when we're done if you want a consultation with me. You see what I'm saying? And that just immediately broke the ice because, okay, we know, because everyone knows what you're doing. Everyone knows it's a sales pitch. Just say it up front. You don't have to hide behind it. And then at the end of the day, when you're done, you say, here's the thing, a little piece of paper, fill it out and get it back. And you get 20 things. 5 would say, I'd be interested in a consultation. You meet with 5 people and 2 would become clients. And you do that once a month. And that's how you built my arc. It's fun, nerve-wracking, fun. And I don't know how you do it today. I still think you have to use a mail because I don't know cold calls they work anymore. I don't know how that works. Thank the good Lord. And YouTube works, but YouTube is not specific to Andrew's house, if that makes sense. And if Andrew doesn't like the fact that I wear a T-shirt inside out, he's not going to come to my seminars. I actually always think about doing seminars again. I love seminars, man. I very, very much enjoyed it. What I'd probably do. Yeah, they're 100%. They're mailing to a demographic. So, like, I live in a very expensive zip code, Andrew, 30004. You're able to get this, not city data. You're able to buy this data set. Look, this is all public. They can even tell what your party registration is and all that. So you can literally got last Hank 3 concert I went to, the Vice Squad showed up. Also, Amish guy hitched. Oh man, that's pretty cool. Yeah, Hank 3 kicks ass. So what would happen is they'd rent a list essentially, and that's what I would do. I can't remember the firms I used to do. So you get this Excel spreadsheet to say, I need a zip code of people making this much money, people with the net worth of this, people with the household income of that, maybe people with teenage kids. If I'm trying to do college seminars or something like that, that always bored me, but it'd be fun. You know what I'm saying? Business owners, all that stuff's publicly available. Just, some people take the data from the Census Bureau and put it down to zip codes and stuff. Here in Fort Worth, it's steakhouse and barbecue seminar. Yeah, dude, I'd be doing that all day long, free, 100%. Um, uh, let's see. But it's fun. So if you get them, go. Absolutely. Are annuities fee free? Yes. I mean, the fees is depends on, like, a CD has a fee to it, just as an FYI. All right. So I mean, a CD is a bank loaning, you're loaning the bank money. And again, when a bank has a CD, a certificate of deposit, that's a liability to the bank. It's an asset to you because you loan money to a bank, and a bank is now liable to pay you back. So it's a liability to the bank. The bank gives you 3% on your interest, and they turn that around and supposedly loan that at 5. So that's a fee, because how they loaning it, or they might be investing. It's a million different things. That is a fee because they're using your money to increase their profits. So there is a fee there, 100%. A fixed annuity, the fee is the same thing. So what a fixed annuity does, the insurance company goes on the market. They say, we're going to give you a 5% guaranteed rate of return with no fee, but we're going to take your money and we're going to go invest it in 6% high yield bonds or something. I'm just using that for example. So the fee is that the difference between what they're giving you and what they're getting in return. But here's the thing that people don't understand this. The reason the insurance company can do this because the law of law numbers. And if you just watched the video I posted earlier today, how the IRA, the Irish Republican Army, we can learn about retirement planning from the IRA. I think you should watch that video because it's very, very interesting. The law of large numbers says, as the insurance company, with 10,000 Joshes here, a couple are going to take out their money with a surrender charge. A couple will leave longer, but we know with those 10,000 people on average what our rate of return will be. We know that almost. That's what the actuaries do. So we know if we get 5.5% rate of return on these 10,000 people, we can offer a 4.5% of fixed annuity. So the difference between the two is a fee that you're paying, because you could have also tried to get that 5.5% rate of return. The problem is, though, when you try to get that 5.5% of rate of return, you're just one person, where the insurance company has a law of large numbers where they have 10,000 people. And so they're very statistically, the probabilities are so high, so strong that they can almost assure that they're going to get that 5.5%. You can't do that because you don't have enough money in that regard. So that's the fee on annuities. In terms of is there an actual fee? No, a fixed annuity is no actual fee. I mean, it's just what you see is what you get. So that's what makes it great. Variable annuities, freaking fees all over the place, man. It's nuts. And the biggest pet peeve of mine is the M&E fee, mortality and expense. So just as a side note, guys, if you have any variable annuities, why are we talking about grats? Yeah, grats. If you have so all right, so my man Harry had a 3% commission with that guy, Stan the Annuity Man, I think. Didn't you use him, Harry? So some SPIAs don't have a fee. They don't charge a commission. They are charging a fee. This is what drives you up the wall. So, like, let's say you had a commission, all right, versus a non-commission. Do you think the non-commission annuity is not charging a fee? Yes, they are. They're just giving. It's almost like when you pay points for a lower the mortgage. You know what I'm saying? That's a fee to get a lower interest rate. So you're going to pay a fee. Harry paid a fee to get a higher interest rate. It's a front end fee. Where I'm going to pay a lower fee, and I'm going to get a lower interest rate on my annuity. Insurance companies aren't stupid. They're always going to take care of number one, and it's going to come out of your back pocket. What the hell is that? Like a bug is banging on the window, scaring the hell out of me, man. Yeah, right on. So commissions, who cares? You pay a commission. I mean, the insurance. So all these non-commission based annuities, they're getting paid. It's all going to end up the same. They're getting paid somehow. The insurance companies aren't altruistic. So if they charge you 5% up front or 5% adjusted over 5 or 10 years, it's all the same. I'd actually rather pay up front and be done with it as opposed to a fee that's based on my account value for sure. Oh, 100%, Joe. I 100% my third portfolio. Because Craig, so I actually, because two things. I, what the hell's going on up there? It's like a freaking, like those moths and stuff. They're like not. You ever seen that Stephen King movie, Salem's Lot, where the freaking vampire knocks on the door, is like, "Let me in, let me." That scared the freaking living hell out of me, dude. I lived on Peaks Island. I watched at my friend Matt's house, who lived on the other side of the island. I watched that. I was that 1980 or something like that? I had to walk through Snake Alley at night, and my brother looks like a vampire as it is because he had this big black hair with a big widow's peak right there, and he's pale. So I'm walking home to Snake Alley after watching that Stephen King freaking movie about poop my pants. I get home, my brother's sitting there pale with his freaking, whatever that thing is, cowlick, whatever it's called, widow's peak. I'm like, dude, and I seeing this freaking kid knock on the door, let me in, like just like my brother. Yeah, might be, dude. Freaking monsters. Speaking of which, let me let the dogs out. I gotta get the dogs. They're still in the crib. I thought Liam came out. I thought Liam was gonna watch the basketball game. All right. Oh, babies. All right, we're going to get the dogs out of the crib. I'm sorry. Oh, such good boys. Come on, everybody. Let's go outside. Yeah, come on, everybody. Come on, everybody. Let's go outside. Good boys. Good boy, Pablo. Just a second. We're going to let these guys go potty. There you go. Good boy. Yeah, Joe, I still love the third portfolio. A, because you're getting, oh, man, it's nice and cool out tonight. You're getting rewarded for cash. B, I'm 100% convinced that bonds are the best investment for the next 1 to 2 years. You know what I'm saying? Because you're getting rewarded while you're sitting on the bond market to revert back to just like historically. If you look at historical rates of return on bonds, when the market gets cranked in the bonds, the next year they jump significantly. Now that might not happen this year. I don't know, but it could. And I would expect it would. It may not be this year, but certainly next year at some point, because the bond market had the worst year it ever had, ever. Have you coming in, baby? All right, good boy. Ever. Wasn't close. So it's not like the bond market had the worst year it ever had after it had wonderful rates of return for the previous 10. And the bond market hasn't done anything much for the last 10 years. So it's not like it gave back its gains from the previous 10 years, if that makes sense. So not only did the bond market get spanked like no one's ever seen, but it got spanked after subpar returns for the previous 10 years. And so, and then got grease on my hair's all greasy. And then on top of that, you have this insane inverted yield curve. I don't care what anybody says. No one knows what this means. It's never been like this, and it means something is way off. So for me, a third is the cash to pay the bills if things go south. The bonds, I think, are the most attractive investment right now. And the stocks for the long term. Absolutely. I got no qualm with that. No. I did not realize that Craig's software you could actually customize it. Because the rolling stuff, I don't really care much about the rolling stuff because that's yesterday's news. I mean, that may or may not trend. I don't know. I like the idea of being able to put in my own numbers for stocks, bonds, and cash with the same standard deviations like he was able to do. That's fantastic. That is fantastic. I love that. And then you can use that with rolling CPI, and I have no problem with that, on top of a much less aggressive rate of return than we had over the last, basically 100 years. I'm a huge fan of that. I can't wait to use that thing. Yeah, Runner Sentinels. What I learned from that is even more for me. So if you're in the accumulation phase, it's different. But if you're in the decumulation phase, I think you should stick to a moderately conservative portfolio, and unless you see things change in terms of adding more exposure to equities, then by all means do so. I think the default for someone retired is a moderately conservative portfolio, 100%. And, 40, 60, 50, 50, something like that. And the reason for that is simple because, again, the sequence of return risks are so big, so risky in the front end of retirement that it's just hindsight is always easier to manage risk. But when the markets go down and you're just retired, hearing someone say just be patient, that doesn't make me feel comfortable because no one knows, man. No one knows what the future holds. And you can say that to people in Japan, just be patient. They're patient until the money went down. Now, will we be Japan? I don't know. Maybe I have no clue. But that's what I'm saying. We have evidence of other investment worlds where patience did not work. And so, yes, we have this evidence of the United States where patience did. I love that. That's great. That doesn't mean it will. And this is my whole thing with the rolling returns, is that in of itself is not all that illuminating to me because it doesn't mean anything going forward. It just says this is a history that we have. That's great. But I don't know if that history will be duplicated. In fact, I don't think it will. And as such, I think at the end of the day, if we have an elderly population, right, which means consumer spending, what happens as people age? They don't spend as much. Consumer spending will drop. On top of that, we do have inflation and things like some consumer price stuff, food, electricity, primarily power. And I just read an article. Denise, I sent that article to you in Maine that there's 93,000 people or something like that who can't afford their electricity bill. Yeah, because that's idiots in the big green machines. These idiots, they're going to be the doom of us. And when your electricity bill goes through the roof due to insanity on the green energy, guess what happens to your consumer spending? It's not being spent on other things. And guess what happens to growth in GDP? It doesn't happen. And guess what happens to profits and stocks? It becomes less and less and such. Now, I could be wrong. That's why I still have stocks. Don't get me wrong. But I just think for me, I'm like, yeah, I'll stick with a third. And as the situation changes, I'll change. Nothing wrong with changing your portfolio. People say, stay the course. Oh, maybe. But stay the course when? In 1999? I mean, literally, stay the course. Okay. To get out of the markets or take some gains off the table, does that mean I'm not staying the course? Well, I'm guilty as charged, man. I always got to take gains, man. So even though I'm pissed off my Exxon, I bought it at like 35, I sold at 65, and now it's at 100, and I used that $65 sale to buy UGI 25. I mean, that sucks, but no one ever went bankrupt selling too soon, if that makes sense. You take the gains off the table, you literally got to cut your losers. At some point, it might just cut UGI. That's the thing you got to learn is like, you got to cut your losers, man. Just cut your losses. So basically, when all said and done, I'm probably even. I bought my shares of Exxon, sold them at a profit, doubled. Now I've lost 50. Yeah, I'm right at where I started. Exxon I bought was for simply 10, sold at 20. UGI I bought at 20, it's back at 10. So I'm right back to where I started. You got to ride your winners and cut your losses, 100%. The coin shop sells at 20. I don't get it, man. What are you talking about, Denise? A lot of people. Yeah, 1 month T-bill is 5.6. The drawback is only 1 month, though. That's the thing. I don't get what you're talking about, Fever Flav. You're talking about, I might go physical. Oh, I got you. For gold and precious metals. Yeah, you always want to have some silver and gold. Silver and gold. Silver and gold. Seems like you need a lawyer to figure out what the annuity is really costing you. Yeah, but I mean, just as long as you know what you're going to get, who cares? I'm like, is 5% on a fixed 5-year fixed annuity good enough for me? If the answer is yes, buy the sucker. I don't care. If that includes commissions, that includes everything, that's fine. You know what I'm saying? Just move on. If 5% is not enough because we spent a lot of time trying to figure out stuff that it really doesn't make a difference if we figure it out. Just know what my net thing is. Does that guarantee That's a drawback of variable. Oh, that's what I was saying about variable annuity. These M&E charges, mortality expense. So essentially, you're paying for a life insurance death benefit, and literally, I don't understand how this is legal, frankly. If the cash value in your portfolio is well above your initial deposit, you're paying sometimes 35 basis points on the entirety of the cash value when there is literally no life insurance benefit there at all. And I don't want to get too deep in this. It freaking pisses me off. All these things the SEC is supposed to do, but the SEC doesn't regulate insurance companies. A variable annuity is an investment asset which is regulated by the SEC. All right. So the SEC allowing a death benefit on a portfolio, let's just say I put $100,000 in there. You're going to get this M&E charge on a variable annuity, 35 basis points. That means it costs me $350. Yeah, $350 every year. What happens is if I put $100,000 in there and I die and the portfolio is only worth $80,000, Charlotte will get the full $100,000 I put in. All right. So that's how that M&E works. There's a death benefit that says you will be made whole if you die if your account is worth less than what you put in. It costs you $350 a year for that on the initial $100,000. Now my cash value, because I've held the annuity for 10 years, grows to $200,000. What's my M&E charge? It's $700 because it's 35 basis points, not on the $100,000, my initial deposit. It's on my cash value. What's my death benefit? $100,000. Well, my account value is worth $200,000. So my account value would literally have to drop by 50% just to put me back where I was. And even then, there's no death benefit. So why am I paying 35 basis points on basically something that's just not going to happen? It's insanity, man. It should not be allowed. It should be illegal. And it's not just that 1 year, it's every year. It's every year. So now my account value is worth $400,000. My death benefit is $100,000. The likelihood of my account dropping from $400,000 below $100,000 is so small, it's just silly. But yeah, I'm paying 35 basis points on that $400,000, which is $1,400. I mean, that's $1,400 a year for a thing I'll never use, and that's just one of the fees on variable annuities. It's insane. Freaking. And I hate that crap. It shouldn't be allowed. Now they had other things, guaranteed minimum income benefits. Some of those fees are okay, but you're talking 3% annuity fees. I was listening to a guy on LinkedIn the other day is debating this guy, and I don't really get on that much LinkedIn, or I'm not on Facebook at all, but he's making an argument. I was like, dude, about index annuities, growth like market like returns with no risk. I was like, you can't do that. You can't say market like returns, because 40% of market like returns are from dividends, and index annuities don't have dividends. And on top of that, they have these caps and participation rates. I said, you can't do that, dude. Now, if you want to say bond-like returns, like Ibbotson says, Roger Ibbotson, he likes index annuities. Well, that's kind of weird to me, but okay. That's fine, because you're probably going to get bond-like returns. But you say market-like, you're implying the stock market-like. And that's freaking bullcrap. You shouldn't say that. I hate it. It's disingenuous, and people who say that don't know what they're talking about. And this guy did. I say, how can you freaking say it? It's pissed me off. So you shouldn't be saying this. I just say the truth. The truth is, you're not going to get stock like market like returns because we're taking off dividends and we have cap and participation rates. You're just not going to. Now we're going to guarantee you no downside risk. When you factor in the cap, participation rates, no dividends, you're going to get bond like returns. That's fine. Bond like returns and no downside risk. I got no problem with that. But to imply market is implying the stock market is freaking weak. Kiss my big fat behind. Yeah, out of debt is good, man. It's amazing. I read today the same big corporation that did the huge layoffs now increasing and want more increases. Yeah, 100%. So USAA, for instance, they're farming out to Mexico, farming out to Guatemala. They're farming out in India, and I'm like, and they just laid off a bunch of Americans. They can all kiss my big fat behind. All kiss my big fat behind. I seen on TV tonight, Americans are $17 billion in debt. That's all kinds of debt. You must mean trillions. I think talk trillions. The Fed wants to crush everything to reset and bring their digital currency. I kind of believe that's true. I think that's I think Jerome Powell is onto something, and I like it that he's trying to get a little bit of semblance back to with high interest rates. I kind of like that actually. I think we're going to have instead of a massive falling of the economy, he's like, look, we're going to get it hit. We're going to get some of these zombie companies out of the way, and we're going to start from scratch. But my concern is the central bank digital currency. I 100%. And I think Jerome Powell is a good guy. I do. Everyone wants to put the Fed as if they're all in control. They're not. But I do like the idea of getting rewarded for money that we haven't been rewarded for since almost my entire career, basically. I mean, literally, we haven't had cash this high for, maybe a couple of years in the early 2000s, but that's in the late 90s. That's it. It's crazy, and it's nice. And I think that going to have an impact on some corporations' ability to leverage and make cheap money and things of that nature. And I like that. That's good. We want more wage appreciation and less capital appreciation to make up for the last 40 years. Since Reagan took office, the bulk of the Americans' wealth has gone to the top 1 to 10%. And that's just because of capital appreciation in the equity market. So there's just no two ways around that. It's not neither good nor bad. It just is. The wage appreciation has not been nearly the same. And so the wealthier got wealthier, and we've all stagnated. Now, it's just a fact. And we've got to come back some semblance of, let's get it back to where it's a little bit more of a reasonable thing here. Now, the problem is, though, all these idiots are laying off American workers and hiring in Poland, hiring in Mexico, Guatemala, hiring in India. And that pisses me off. And so it's one thing to have wage stagnation and say we're going to increase wages by maybe not getting so much capital market wealth appreciation from the markets. But if they're not hiring Americans, they're only sending it overseas. We're gonna have that's traitorous, in my opinion. It's traitorous to lay off a bunch of people in your home country while you're freaking hiring a bunch of people in Poland. It's traitorous to lay off a bunch of people in your home country while you have a Ukrainian flag up there on your freaking LinkedIn profile. Say we want to send more money to Zelensky. It's freaking traitorous, man. And someone needs to be held accountable for all this crap. Why are we paying Ukrainian pensions? And yet, it boggles the mind. Boggles the mind. People are so anti-Russia and Putin. They just literally, people on the right. I see it every day. I'm like, I cannot believe you can't see this. It's weird. I'm not even on the right anymore. I'm so far right. I'm now on the left, I guess, because I don't want anything to do with people who think it's okay to fund Ukraine. Not just the military, but their pensions, their hospitals, while our own people are freaking hurting because of increase in healthcare costs. Social Security isn't keeping up and all this. It's insanity. And we got to get Putin. Why? Why do we got to get Putin? What did he ever do to us? Screw that guy. Who cares? You know what I'm saying? It's nuts. Oh, you don't want to support, you want the Russians to come to take over Washington? Dude, they can't even take over Kiev. They're not coming to Washington. I don't understand it. I hate it, actually. I'm sitting there thinking, we got people in the United States. This will be it, and I'll get out of here. I'll never forget. I'll say this before, I'll say it again. I knew I could not be in the business of asset under management anymore. I had this guy come to my office when I worked in Tennessee, and he was suffering from Agent Orange. Didn't have many years ahead of him because he was drafted into Vietnam. He's a Southern man, and so as a patriotic duty to serve for the country, roughshod on the South after the Civil War. And if you don't think that happened, you're freaking crazy. What happened in the South from the Union side with the carpetbaggers and all that is disgraceful, 100%. And people wonder why there's hostility towards the Yankees from the South that is kept for many, many years. It's disgusting. Disgusting how they treated Southerners after the Civil War. And no one teaches that in history. In fact, I listened to, I'm from Maine. We never heard of this. Southern Reconstruction is easily one of the most, no one talks about it because the people who are hurt from it were poor white people in the South. Poor white people in the South. And as such, that's where the discrimination came with the Klan. That's where the discrimination came from Jim Crow, because they said once the Yankees left, the poor blacks had no one to defend them anymore against people who are pissed off. That's not saying it's right or wrong. It's just historical truth. And that sucks because the Klan became traitors, became terrorists. And that's what happens all the time with these cult-like things. They all come terrorists. You know what I'm saying? And that's what happened, dude. And so the Yankees left these poor blacks to fend for themselves against these freaking poor whites who felt they were literally abused, robbed of their land. You know what I'm saying? Bullied, treated like crap. All these rich northern industrialists. And look, you're not going to read this in your normal history book by Howard Finn because the guy's a scumbag. But this is what happened. And of course, so you pitted the two poor whites against poor blacks, and the blacks ended up on the worst end of that for sure. You see what I'm saying? But no one's better off for it. And yet the rich industrialists in the North, they ran off back to the Boston and back off to New York, and they don't care. And they just led everyone else to fight amongst themselves. Crazy. They can all kiss my big fat behind. And we still don't learn that stuff in history books because it, has some sympathy towards, poor whites in the South. What's the score? What quarter? All right, so you turn on. All right. So you never hear this, because you can't have any sympathy for white people. So now we hear all the time. It's like, oh my goodness, Putin is going to come over here, and I'm sitting there thinking, that's what I'm saying. So here's a Southern guy who was drafted to Vietnam, went to fight in the infantry. You know what I'm saying? Suffered from Agent Orange because America was bombing just insane amounts of people with chemicals that, don't forget, 10 years before that is DDT for me. America was bombing Americans with DDT because we trusted the science. Anyway, long story short, so this guy is now not long for the world. He's paying 1.5% fee in his asset base. And he said, I just want to make sure my wife is taken care of and she won't lose money. And I'll never forget, I said, I can't guarantee you that. The only way I can guarantee is you're doing annuity or CDs. I cannot guarantee in this portfolio you won't lose money. And on top of that, I can't guarantee that you're not going to spend 1.5% on your $350,000 portfolio when the markets go up and the markets go down. But I will guarantee you that the guy who owns this company through basically there's a company that gets bought into another big conglomerate. He is flying around on his private jet all over the world, giving fancy, smancy, good time rock and roll seminars on how freaking world travel he was. I guarantee that, well, I can't guarantee you don't lose money. I guarantee you're going to pay, and I guarantee this guy will keep his private jet, if that makes sense. And how do you buy all these companies? With leverage. So he got the bank, and my guy from Agent Orange, who as a Southerner said, I will get drafted and I will go serve honorably to a war that should never have been fought, and we all got suckered into it. Anyway, I said, I can't do this anymore. This is insanity because this guy can fly over the way in his private jet. Now that guy's living large where people like this are not getting anything relative to what they put into this country. Their benefits are being reduced by the day, and yet the rich people's are freaking living large as possible. And as such, if Jerome Powell can clean some of that up by saying, we're going to make it painful for leverage to buy these leverage buyouts and these things, I'm okay with that. And that's going to mean probably lower growth in the equity markets. And I'm okay with that because lower growth in the equity markets, maybe we'll see some of that, a little bit more of a draw. These people up here will start going down a little bit. The people on the bottom ends, the middle, the bottom is the Democrats, the middle is the Republicans. My people will start rising up a little bit, relatively speaking. I don't know, but then we're going to say, okay, well, we're still going to farm out all of our jobs to freaking overseas. And you're like, and yet we are the traitorous ones who say, I don't want anything to do with the Ukraine war. Oh, you want Putin to win. I don't want Putin to win. I don't want anything to do with it. I just don't care. We got enough problems here. Let's solve them here. Oh, but Putin will be marching on D.C. No, he's not. He's not going to be marching on D.C. He won't be. And as such, I don't care. It's not happening. Oh, you're traitors. Yet these people are the ones farming out all the businesses, all the jobs overseas. It's freaking disgusting. Oh, but we are getting benefits of the capital appreciation. Are you really, though? 57% decline from October 2007 to March 9th of 2009. Yeah. How many people lost their shirts? Middle-class Americans lost their shirts. A lot of them did. Now, if you were able to hold tight, you came back. Is that going to happen next time? I don't know. Yeah, enough of that crap. Freaking 20-point lead, 5 minutes left in the third. All right, come on, Nuggets. I hate the Lakers. Come on, Nuggets. BlackRock wants, 100%, dude. They want Ukraine because there's so much in there in Ukraine. You know what I'm saying? There's so much there. They know it for a fact. They're like, dude, if Ukraine, if the criminal activity that happened in Ukraine gets out, we're all going to jail. So they want to make sure they're going to guard Ukraine like we guard Fort Knox, because they know the criminal element of all Republicans and Democrats, John McCain, Lindsey Graham, Sniffy Joe, freaking Lindsey, who's the other guy? Sniffy Joe. I mean, they're all freaking corrupt, and they all got freaking, they're going to be held to pay if the truth gets out, and they can't have it. So they're going to fight. They're going to fight to the last Ukrainian alive. All right, I'm going to get out of here, my friends. I'll put a job. What was going on? Isn't it funny they're all bashing guns too? I got my gun's never shot anybody. I'll go ask my gun. I'll say, hey, my firearms, my rifles, my Glocks. Are you upset today, Glock 19? Are you mad? Because I just want to make sure that I can give you some social counseling if you're upset. My Glock 19, you know what it's going to do when I ask him that question? You know what my Glock's going to do? He's going to look at me, as he always does. They say, I'm an inanimate object. I have no feelings. I can't pull the trigger. I can't do anything. I just literally sit here like this calculator just sits here. I literally don't do anything. I don't have any hate. I don't have any envy. I don't have any love because I'm an inanimate object. Now, crazy people use inanimate objects to hurt people. The inanimate object is inherently not the problem. It's the crazy people. But hey, let's just pretend that if we just had common sense gun control. What does that mean? Remember, Al Gore had common sense gun control. There you go, baby. Everyone wants to see Pablo. Yes, they do. Al Gore's common sense gun control is to have every handgun owner register with the federal government. That was what Al Gore proposed running for president. Remember, he was a senator from Tennessee, by the way, before he became vice president. Every handgun owner register his handgun with the federal government. That was common sense gun control. The Democrats always say common sense gun control. Ain't common sense to me. The Brune decision. I don't know what that is. What is that, Andrew? Yeah, mine is pretty lazy as well. Just lazy. Exactly. Oh my goodness. It just sits there, mind his own business. Said, you got to get up and get to work, Glock, AR. Get up and get to work. My freaking 22. Get up and get out there. Earn your keep. Come on, man. I don't know what that is, man. I don't know what you're saying, Andrew. What are we talking about? Oh, because they said they can't do massive killings with knives. Huh? Gun control is just hitting a tight shot group. That's what gun control is. All right. I'm waiting for Andrew to say what he's talking about. They're panicking over the bride's decision. Yeah, right. Just kidding. I lost all mine in a boating accident. Exactly. I lost my money, my gold, my guns, and my boats in a boating accident. Actually, Josh, I'm watching a thing on Netflix. It's a lobster. It's a fourth episode of a show called Sinners with that guy Bill Pullman. I actually like it, man. It's pretty good. And right now they're pretending to be on a lobster island on Maine. That's the biggest island I've ever seen in my life. If that's off the coast of Maine, because it's very big. But it's kind of funny. I was watching that last night. I said, my man Josh, lobstering, and one of the lobsters just got killed. By the way, ooh, who killed him? He got a bullet in his back of his head by a fellow lobsterman who did not like him cutting their crates. I don't know, man. Oh, right here, Rifle and Pistol Company basically ruled that if it is in the Texas reduced, the Second Amendment isn't constitutional. No, I don't think so. All right, get out of here, my friends. Gotta go. God bless. We'll see you guys. Thanks again for being here. And I'll put the stuff to Craig's in the show notes later on. See ya.